The first time I read that message, my hands didn't shake. My jaw didn't drop. I didn't feel the earth tilt beneath me or hear some dramatic orchestra playing in the background. No. I just stared at the screen, blinking once, twice. Then I took a deep breath and let the truth sink in. Don't worry, baby. Once the Russian hitmen take care of him, the insurance money is all ours. It was sent from my wife's phone to a contact named Coach. That *TCH didn't even try to hide it. I should have been angry. Should have thrown the phone against the wall, stormed into our bedroom, and dragged her out by her lies. But I didn't. I just smiled. Because she forgot who she married. To Amanda, I was just a simple mechanic. Oil-stained hands, old truck, no college degree. The kind of man who fixes things, pays bills, stays quiet. The kind of man who wouldn't notice when his wife starts slipping out late with her makeup perfect and no panties under that little red dress. But Amanda didn't marry a simple man. She married Logan Cole. And before I opened that garage, I spent 12 years in Black Ops. I've taken down warlords, dismantled terror cells, vanished diplomats. I've done things that don't exist on paper. And now, my target is sleeping in the next room. Let me rewind a little. Last Friday, I came home early from the shop. The sky was still bright, dinner was cold, and Amanda was nowhere to be found. But her phone? Left on the counter, screen lit, buzzing with a message. That message. Once the Russian hitmen take care of him. Her words. Not mine. That night, I didn't say a word. I kissed her forehead when she got home 2 hours later, smelling like expensive cologne that wasn't mine. I asked about her yoga class, and she fed me some bullsh* tea about deep stretching and wine afterwards. Yoga with wine, huh? Got it. I spent that night in the garage, pretending to fix the carburetor on a '78 Firebird. What I was really doing? Pulling out my old lockbox. The one Amanda doesn't know about. Inside, my encrypted satellite phone, a SG Sauer P226, and the files I swore I'd never open again. It was time to become the man she never knew she married. The next morning, she made pancakes, kissed my cheek, and asked if I'd signed the life insurance renewal. Said it with those big fake doe eyes. God, she was good. Real good. She even joked, "You better not die before our beach trip next month." I smiled and said, "No worries, babe. I'm not going anywhere." Not yet. I made a call that afternoon. A secure line. Told them the code name. Scorpion's Nest. That was all it took. My old handler knew what it meant. I was activating the failsafe. And the game began. The next few days, I played dumb. Played her game. She wore shorter skirts, disappeared more often, started calling me babe like we were suddenly in high school. I knew what she was doing, fattening the turkey before the axe drops. Guilt-tripping herself into fake affection before the kill. Then, 2 nights ago, I followed her. She said she was going to book a spa treatment. She ended up at a sleazy motel on the edge of town. Room 214. Curtains drawn. And guess who walked in 10 minutes later? Coach. A tall, muscular dude with a smug grin and too many tattoos for someone who claims to train high school athletes. I watched him grab her waist, spin her, and push her against the wall. I didn't need to see more. I'd seen that move before. I taught it to operatives in Colombia, close quarters seduction and control. He was ex-military too. Probably some washed-up mercenary she found on Facebook with a sad story and a six-pack. She was all over him, giggling. He doesn't suspect a thing. After next weekend, we'll be rich and free. That was her plan. But she forgot one thing. You don't try to kill a ghost. I've been dead before. My name buried in classified files, my picture burned off the grid. Amanda thought she picked the perfect victim. Dumb, loyal, boring. Instead, she poked a sleeping wolf. I walked back to my truck, started the engine, and whispered to myself, time to show her who she really married. And so it begins. By the time I got home, Amanda was already asleep in our bed, curled up under the covers like she wasn't plotting my murder. Her hair smelled like men's body spray. She even left her phone charging on the nightstand, as if I wasn't smart enough to clone it already. I laid beside her, watching her breathe. Just watching. Not like a husband watches his wife. More like a sniper studies his target through the scope. Because that's all she was to me now, a mission. And the mission was clear. Expose her, punish her, and make sure she never forgets who I really am. Next morning, she was back to her usual act. Bathrobe, kiss on the cheek, soft little giggle as she handed me a coffee. "Big day today, babe?" she asked, stirring her tea. "Oh yeah," I said. "Got a lot to take care of." If only she knew. By then, I'd already made contact with someone I hadn't spoken to in years, a guy named Marcus Smoke Valles, former CIA tech op. He owed me his life from an operation in Syria, and now I was collecting. He was the one who tracked the encrypted texts. Turns out Coach wasn't just a side piece. He was connected to a Russian black market gunrunner. Amanda hadn't just cheated on me. She recruited someone to finish me off. Her plan was damn near genius. The hitmen were supposed to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. I'd be found dead in my garage. Bullet to the head. Clean. Untraceable. But now I knew everything. So, I built the perfect trap. First, I left breadcrumbs. Small ones. A gas can just outside the garage. A few staged arguments with Amanda in public. A half-burned threatening note in the trash. She'd think I was losing control. Getting paranoid. Vulnerable. That would boost her confidence. And that's exactly what I wanted. A cocky traitor is easier to expose. The next evening, I came home early. Again. She was in the living room, texting like crazy. Her hands froze when she saw me walk in. "Hey, you're early," she said, flashing that fake smile. "Closed shop early." "Got some bad news from the insurance company," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "What kind of bad news?" I watched her carefully. Turns out there was a problem with the paperwork. The policy's been flagged. No payout if something happens to me. I watched her skin pale just slightly. Not much, but enough. "Oh, that's terrible," she said, putting on a shocked face. "You okay?" "I'll live," I said, grinning slightly. She didn't know I'd hacked her emails. She didn't know I'd replaced her burner phone with a clone. She didn't know I'd already rerouted her payments through fake bank accounts. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was preparation. I needed her to feel comfortable, safe, still in control. So I spent the rest of the evening cooking steak, lighting candles, pretending to be the man she thought she could outsmart. We even watched some stupid Netflix show while she snuggled into my chest, lying through her teeth about how much she loved me. But I knew that night she confirmed the hit. The final message came through at 1:17 a.m. from a secure chat app. I was in the garage pretending to sleep on the couch. Target confirmed. Saturday. Midnight. Location. Home. That was it. My death sentence. Written like a business memo. But they picked the wrong Saturday. Because I won't be the one bleeding on the floor. They will. Saturday came faster than expected. Amanda acted like it was just another weekend. Pancakes. That fake little dance she did in the kitchen when her favorite song played. But beneath all that painted-on joy was one very nervous woman trying to play cool before her husband was supposed to die. She wore perfume that day. Real heavy. Strong enough to cover guilt. And I noticed she dressed a little nicer than usual for just hanging around the house. She was nervous. That's when I knew she was serious about it. So I played along. I mowed the lawn. Drank a beer. Watched the game. Gave her every signal that I was completely clueless. The mechanic husband. The fool. The soon-to-be dead. But by noon, the real work started. First, I cleared the cameras from the house's official security system. Amanda thought that was the only surveillance we had. But I'd installed my own, microcams the size of screws in all the right places. Kitchen, garage, hallway, even the damn laundry room. All streamed directly to a tablet in my workshop out back. Then, I started prepping the safe room. Yeah, I had one. When I built this house 5 years ago, I designed a hidden basement bunker under the garage. Soundproof, reinforced steel door, emergency exit to the woods. Amanda thought it was just an extra storage space I never finished. Truth is, I kept it off all blueprints. For moments like this. Inside that room, I laid out everything: guns, gear, comms, old ops files. And something special I'd saved for years, a black mask, and the ID badge of a man Amanda didn't know existed, Ghost Protocol. L. Cole. It was time. By 10:30 p.m., she was pacing, pretending to fold laundry, pretending to check emails. But really, she was waiting for the signal. Around 11:15, she poured me a drink. Bourbon. Ice. Just like I liked it. She handed it to me with that angelic smile and said, "You should relax tonight. You've been working so hard." The drink was laced. I knew. I'd watched her crush the pill and pour it in. Amateur move. That dosage might knock out a teenager, but I've built immunity to worse. So I sipped it. Just enough to keep the act going. Then, when she wasn't looking, I dumped the rest into the potted plant behind the couch. At 11:50, I passed out in the armchair. At 11:57, she slipped her phone from her robe and whispered into it, "He's out cold." Back doors unlocked. Then she walked to the bedroom, calmly, like she hadn't just ordered my execution. 3 minutes later, I heard it. Back door creaked. Boots on tile. 2 shadows. One taller, built like a rhino. The other shorter, carrying a silenced pistol like he'd used it before. Russian. Spetsnaz by the way they moved, clean, efficient, fast. They checked my pulse. Is dead, the taller one asked in a thick accent. Amanda stepped out from the hallway, pretending to be terrified. I don't want to see it. Just do it and go. They pointed the silencer at my head. And that's when I opened my eyes and whispered, wrong house. I moved fast. The taller one dropped first, elbow strike to the throat, snapped his wrist, gun in my hand. The short one turned, fired, missed. I didn't. 2 shots. One in the leg, one in the shoulder. He dropped screaming. Amanda shrieked. Tried to run. I grabbed her by the wrist mid-sprint and slammed her against the wall. Hard enough for the pictures to fall. You were going to bury me next to your damn roses, I hissed. How's this for a plot twist? Her face twisted, first shock, then rage, then fear. You're not just a mechanic, she breathed. No, Amanda, I growled. I'm the nightmare you hired. And this was just the beginning. Amanda looked at me like I was a stranger. Like she was seeing a ghost she'd summoned but didn't believe would actually show up. Her lips trembled as she whispered, What are you? I stared her dead in the eye. I'm the man you tried to kill. She tried to pull her arm free, but I tightened my grip. Not hard enough to hurt her. Not yet. Just enough to remind her that she wasn't in control anymore. Let me go, Logan, she hissed. I tilted my head. Let you go? Like you let me die tonight? She tried to fake innocence, like she always did. I didn't know they were going to actually kill you. I thought they'd just scare you into leaving. It was all Coach's idea, right? Just like all the late nights were book club. Just like all the mystery charges on our joint account were spa treatments. And I was supposed to be the idiot. The guy bleeding in the corner let out a groan. I turned my eyes to him. Rushing him in? That's your plan. Amanda stammered. They said it'd be clean. No mess. I didn't. Shut up, I said flatly. I grabbed duct tape from the drawer, tied both of them down, her to the chair, the bleeding guy to a steel support pole. The other one wasn't waking up anytime soon. Might have broken his neck on the way down. I didn't care. I stood over Amanda, staring at the woman I once thought I'd grow old with. She was in full panic mode now. Logan, please, if you just listen. I did listen, I interrupted. I listened for months. Listened to your lies, your excuses, your late-night showers, and secret phone calls. You thought I wouldn't notice? She tried one last move, tears. You never paid attention to me anymore. You were always in that damn garage. You stopped touching me like you used to. You made me feel invisible, Logan. I just wanted to feel something again. I leaned down, inches from her face. And what did Coach make you feel? Was it in motel room 214? Was it better than all the nights we shared under this roof? She flinched. That was just release. It didn't mean anything. But murdering me meant something? I snapped. Silence. For once in her life, Amanda had nothing to say. I stood back and laughed. Cold and bitter. You should have just divorced me. You'd get the car, the house, the sympathy. But you wanted it all. My life. My blood. My name gone so you could collect a damn insurance check. Amanda's face hardened. The tears dried fast. And just like that, the real her came out. You know what? She spat. Yeah, I wanted out. You were boring. Predictable. You fixed engines and ate leftovers. And I was sick of pretending you were a man worth keeping. There it was. The final nail. I let that sink in for a second. Then I smiled. Thank you. For what? She snapped. For finally telling the truth. She looked confused. What do you mean? I turned to the still conscious hitman. You speak English? He nodded weakly. Duh, little. Good. You're gonna record something for me. Amanda's eyes went wide. What the hell are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, hit record, and shoved it in her face. Confession time. She shook her head. No way. Lie again, I warned. And I'll send the Russians your mother's address instead. She blinked. And just like that, she started talking. Fine. I hired them. I wanted him dead. We were supposed to make it look like a robbery. I'd collect the money, and me and Coach would disappear. I turned the phone toward the hitman. You confirm that? He gave a slow nod. Yes. We were paid. Half up front. Name of the contact? He hesitated. Woman. Amanda. Sent us money, gave photos, told us time and place. I stopped recording. Amanda broke down again. Please, Logan, don't ruin my life. I leaned down and whispered, you already ruined it. Then I stood and walked out of the room, locking the door behind me. And I let her sit in that chair, realizing the only man who ever truly protected her just became her worst enemy. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the footage on repeat. Amanda's confession. Her voice trembling, eyes wide with panic, saying the words out loud like she couldn't believe she was finally caught. I kept rewinding it. Not because I needed proof. I already had more than enough. But because every time I heard her say it, a part of me stopped feeling guilty about what I was planning to do next. I wasn't going to kill her. No, that'd be too easy. I was going to destroy everything she ever cared about, piece by piece, like she tried to do to me. At sunrise, I made a few calls. Smoke helped me reroute the evidence straight to a secure folder that would auto-send to the police, FBI, and her office if I didn't enter a kill switch code every 24 hours. Insurance fraud. Attempted murder. Conspiracy with foreign nationals. Oh yeah, she was going away for a long, long time. But jail? That wasn't even the worst part. See, Amanda liked control. She liked looking like the perfect wife. Pretty on the outside, dangerous underneath. She thrived on status, reputation, all the girls' brunches, the curated Instagram posts of avocado toast and couple goals. So I started there. At 9 a.m. sharp, I scheduled the first wave. Airdropped her confession to everyone in her contact list. Family, friends, her yoga group, even her boss. The group chat exploded. I watched it happen in real time. Text after text. Amanda, is this a joke? Tell me this isn't real. OMG, you hired hitmen? She didn't reply to any of them. She was still locked in the basement chair, screaming at the cameras, begging me to talk. I had the audio muted. Didn't want to hear her voice anymore. By noon, her sister showed up. I didn't answer the door. She banged for 5 minutes before finally leaving a note that said, Amanda, what the hell is going on? Call me. Next, I contacted my lawyer. Had him draft divorce papers so clean and ironclad. Not even the devil's attorney could twist them. Everything she cared about, the house, the car, the accounts, all frozen. Transferred. Removed. And then came the final blow. Coach. I found out his real name. Brian Keller. He was a former Marine dishonorably discharged for smuggling black market gear. No surprise there. His apartment? Trash. His car? Leased. His phone? Bugged. I sent every dirty file I had on him to Homeland Security under an anonymous tip. They'd be kicking his door in before sundown. By 3 p.m., Amanda was hysterical. She'd stopped screaming and started bargaining. Logan, please. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I can fix this. We can fix us. I turned on the mic for the first time that day and replied calmly. Us died the moment you called me boring and tried to have me executed for a payout. She sobbed. I was desperate. No, I said coldly. You were greedy. Then I ended the call and shut off the screen. At 6 p.m., I opened the door to the basement. She looked up at me with bloodshot eyes and cracked lips. Are you going to kill me? I shook my head. You don't get to die today, Amanda. You get to live with everything you did. Everyone knows. Everyone saw the real you. She broke. Right there on the concrete. Crumpled like a puppet with its strings cut. And I walked away, not looking back. Because some revenge doesn't knock. It walks in and takes everything. 3 days after I exposed her, Amanda was still hiding in the house. Not our house, hers now, technically, the one I let her rot in while I moved into a secure apartment across town. She hadn't showered. Barely ate. Just sat in the same spot on the cold basement floor, reliving her failure like a broken record. I didn't visit. I didn't check the cameras anymore. I already saw enough. The world Amanda built around lies and manipulation was collapsing in real time. Coach? Or Brian? Rather, he got arrested the next morning. Homeland hit his apartment like a sweat show. Guns drawn, neighbors screaming. Found illegal firearms, forged IDs, burner phones. The works. He's being held without bail. They're digging into his military past now. Once the insurance fraud and murder for hire charges catch up, he'll be in federal prison till he dies. Amanda's job? Gone. Her boss received the recording directly. HR called her in for a chat Monday morning, but she never showed. Word spread like wildfire. Someone leaked the audio. Her confession was on Reddit, Twitter, even a podcast that discusses killer spouses. They called her the Rose Widow since she planned to bury me by the roses out front. Cute. Our neighbors stopped pretending to wave at her. I heard she tried grocery shopping and got slapped in the parking lot by some woman from her Pilates class. And then came the subpoenas. My lawyer filed the official charges: attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud. I didn't even have to show up in person. My evidence was so airtight, her own attorney recommended a plea deal within 24 hours. But here's the thing. I didn't want her behind bars just yet. No, that'd be too clean. I wanted her to feel it, to live it, to walk through the wreckage of everything she burned, barefoot and blindfolded. So I delayed the trial, gave her time to sink. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. I reopened my shop under a new name, Ghost Torque. People started talking when they saw the rebrand. Business boomed. I hired 2 veterans to help run things. Guys I trusted with my life. It was good to be around brothers again. No lies. No masks. Just honest work and shared scars. But the nights, those were the hardest. I'd sit alone on the balcony, bourbon in hand, trying to untangle the knot inside me. Not rage. Not even sadness. Disappointment. I married Amanda because she saw me at my lowest, after my discharge, after the blood, when I wanted to disappear. She made me believe I could be more than just a tool for violence. She held my hand and told me I was enough. And then she tried to have me erased like a bad receipt. That F***CK's with your head. One night, Smoke called. Still breathing? He asked. Barely, I said. He paused. You did the right thing, Logan. You let her unravel herself. Doesn't make it hurt less, I admitted. No, he replied. But it makes you free. That word stuck with me. Free. I hadn't felt that way in years. Free from pretending. Free from her web of smiles and betrayal. Free from playing the harmless husband when my instincts told me I was being hunted in my own damn home. I wasn't broken. I was awake. By the 5th night, I slept through till morning. No nightmares. No Amanda. Just peace. It was fragile, like glass in the sun, but it was mine. And for the first time in a long time, I wanted to live again. Not for revenge. Not for justice. For me. It was a Thursday morning when Amanda finally crawled out of her hole. I heard about it from Cheryl, my old neighbor 2 doors down. She called while I was elbow deep in an engine rebuild. She showed up, Cheryl said, her voice shaky, like she wasn't sure if she should be telling me. Looked like a ghost. Hair a mess. No shoes. Just stood at your old doorstep for 10 minutes. I wiped my hands on a rag and stepped out into the sun. What did she want? I asked. Cheryl hesitated. She kept whispering your name. Logan, please. Just talk to me. Then she sat down on the porch like she still belonged there. That porch. I built it with my own hands. Hammered every nail, stained the wood, even carved our initials under the railing the week after our honeymoon. I remember Amanda laughing when I did it, saying, "You're such a sap." Now that same porch was her stage for a last, pathetic performance. I thanked Cheryl and hung up. I didn't drive over. Didn't need to. I already knew what Amanda was doing. She wasn't there because she missed me. She was there because she had nothing left. Her family had cut her off. Her friends ghosted her. Her job gone. And the trial date was closing in. She was desperate. I let her sit there. Let her feel the emptiness. But that night, she found me. I was locking up the shop around 8 p.m. when I saw the figure across the street, just outside the glow of the flickering lamppost. She stepped into the light slowly, as if revealing herself in layers. Amanda. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Hair tangled, makeup smeared under her eyes, wearing a hoodie that didn't even belong to her. My God, I muttered. You really don't know when to quit. She crossed the street slowly, hands raised like I was a threat. You said I'd live with it, she said quietly. You were right. I am. I didn't say a word. Just stared. She swallowed. Logan. I'm not here to fight. Or beg. I don't know who I am anymore. I scoffed. You're a liar. A cheater. A would-be murderer. You're exactly who you've always been. She flinched. I was broken, she said. And I tried to fix it by destroying you. I don't expect forgiveness. But if there's any part of you, any human part, left under all that pain, just hear me out. For a moment, the silence between us was loud enough to make my chest vibrate. Then I said, you spent 2 years lying next to me, plotting my death like it was a chess move. Now you want a conversation? I made a mistake, she whispered. No, I replied. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You orchestrated a murder. She nodded slowly, tears falling, but I didn't care anymore. I couldn't. That well of empathy she'd once drained dry was empty now. I'm going to prison, she said. I know that. I accepted it, but I had to look you in the eye before it happened. Because the man I married, the man I tried to erase, he was better than me. Stronger. Kinder. I didn't deserve you. I studied her for a long moment. And then I said what I'd been holding in for months. No, Amanda. You didn't. She cried then. Really cried. Not the manipulative, mascara-running theatrics she used to pull. This was broken sobbing. The kind that shook her shoulders and stole her breath. But I didn't reach out. Didn't comfort her. I let her break. Because I wasn't her savior anymore. She turned, finally, and walked away into the darkness. And I stood there, watching the woman who tried to bury me with her lies vanish into the night she created. For good. Amanda's trial began 2 weeks later. It wasn't a media circus, not yet. But local reporters were definitely sniffing around, and her name, Amanda Cole, was now permanently tied to the phrase murder for hire attempt. The courtroom was small, quiet, and heavy with tension. I sat in the back, didn't speak, didn't make a scene. Just watched. She wore a gray suit. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She looked like a shell. Like someone who'd already been buried and exhumed. When they played the recording, "Don't worry, baby, once the Russian hitmen take care of him, the insurance money is all ours," Amanda closed her eyes like it physically hurt her to hear herself. Good. The prosecutors laid it out clean and cold. Financial motive, multiple communications with hired killers, confession recorded under no duress. They didn't even need to embellish. She buried herself with her own words. Her lawyer tried to spin it as emotional instability. Claimed she suffered from temporary delusional detachment due to marital dissatisfaction. I almost laughed. If betrayal came with a medical diagnosis, we'd all be living in padded rooms. By the end of the first day, Amanda pled guilty to avoid federal charges. She took the deal, 12 years in state prison. No parole before year 7. No contact with me ever again. The gavel dropped. The courtroom emptied. And I walked out with a silence in my chest I'd never known before. It wasn't peace exactly, not yet. But it was something. I didn't celebrate. Didn't go drinking. Didn't post a victory quote on Instagram like some motivational warrior. I just went home, sat on my balcony, and stared at the night sky. Alone. And then I started to write this. Because this story, my story, isn't just about revenge. It's about what you learn when the person you trust most turns into your enemy. When the love of your life tries to erase you like you were just a number on a payout document. Here's what I learned. 1. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it is. Don't silence your gut to keep the peace. I saw the signs, the late nights, the random smiles at texts, the fake fights meant to justify distance. I ignored it because I loved her. That almost got me killed. 2. Love without blindness. Loving someone doesn't mean tolerating betrayal. Amanda didn't fall from grace overnight. It was gradual, lie by lie, secret by secret. I saw the red flags. I just chose not to raise them. 3. Know who you are. For years, I played the role Amanda needed, quiet, simple, safe. But I was never just a mechanic. I was a warrior, a protector, a man with history and purpose. She wanted me dull, obedient, small. She forgot what I'm made of. 4. Revenge isn't about violence. I didn't break her bones. I broke her illusion, the fantasy that she was smarter, faster, untouchable. That was enough. 5. Healing is slow and quiet. There's no montage, no epic song, just small moments, sleeping through the night, laughing with a friend, rebuilding something with your own hands. Amanda's gone now. In prison, probably carving lies into new walls, trying to seduce the sympathy out of someone else. That's her prison, not just of bars, but of herself. As for me, I'm still learning how to live, still learning how to trust again. But I wake up every morning knowing one thing. I survived. She dug a grave for me. And now, she's rotting in it alone. I never thought I'd open her laptop. Not because I respected her privacy, but because I trusted her. God, what a dumb F***ing move. It was Tuesday night. I was lying in bed. She was in the shower, probably rinsing off someone else's sweat, now that I think about it. Her MacBook was open on the dresser, and something caught my eye. A draft email. Not sent yet. Like it was begging me to read it. Like fate wanted to break my ribs from the inside out. It said, "With you, I feel like a woman. He's just an ATM." That was it. No, hello. No, dear. Just that raw, sliced open insult, written like she was texting a friend about brunch. Signed with a heart emoji and yours, Haley. Haley, my wife. The woman I met at Duke. The one who said she wanted to build a life with me. Build, not bleed. I didn't touch her laptop again. Didn't scream. Didn't slam the door. I closed it slowly like I was tucking in a child. Then I got up, walked into my home office, and stared at the screen for 3 hours. Stared at numbers. Bank accounts. Business partnerships. Her gym schedule. Everything I could find. I had to become colder than the betrayal. By morning, she was kissing me on the cheek like she hadn't just gutted me in 10 words. "You're quiet today, baby," she said, tying her robe like she was about to shoot AF *****ing commercial. "Just tired," I lied. I should have gotten an Oscar. But what she didn't know was that I wasn't just some sleepy husband. I was preparing to kill. That day, I froze every joint account. I pulled the plug on her cards, even the secret ones she thought I didn't know about. I transferred my ownership in the business to my most vicious rival, Aiden Graves, a man I knew would gut the place dry and fire everyone, including her lover, her alpha, her goddamn real man. I didn't tell her I knew. Not yet. I wanted to see her squirm. I wanted to see if she'd keep lying while the floor beneath her cracked open inch by inch. She called me that afternoon while I was driving. "Hey babe, I think my card got declined at Bloomingdale's. Can you check it?" I smiled through the phone. "Must be a glitch. Try the Amex." "Oh yeah, good idea. Love you." She still had the nerve to say that. The next day, she started spiraling. "Did you move some money?" "I can't access anything. It's saying the account's frozen." I told her I'd talk to the bank. That night, I watched her toss and turn, pretending to sleep while she Googled bank account frozen by spouse and legal rights wife cheating. I swear, I could smell the panic on her skin. She didn't ask me directly. Not yet. But the moment was coming. On Thursday morning, I left for a meeting. Instead, I drove to the office one last time, cleaned out my desk, left a box of her things with a post-it. "You're no longer needed here. You're alpha too." When she showed up to work that day, security didn't let her in. She called me from the sidewalk, her voice trembling. "What the hell is going on, Jason?" "They said I'm not on the employee list. They said Marcus got fired this morning too." "I sold the company," I said calmly. "You're not my problem anymore." Silence. "Then, you're insane. You can't do this. I gave you the best years of my life." I almost laughed. "You gave me lies, Haley, and brunch letters to your buddy." Click. I stared at my reflection in the black screen. I looked older, but more alive than ever. This wasn't just betrayal. It was war. And I was finally armed. Friday morning, she tried sweet. Lavender perfume and some lacy thing I hadn't seen since our honeymoon. She brought me coffee, all smiles, acting like we hadn't just torched 15 years of marriage in a 4-day span. "Morning, handsome," she purred, sliding into my lap. That same lap she'd probably ridden after riding him. I didn't flinch. Just looked at her like she was a stranger on the train. "Bank called," she added. "They said you have to go in to sign something about the accounts. You didn't tell me anything." "Oh, that's weird," I said, sipping the coffee she made. I let the silence drag long enough to make her squirm, then added, "Maybe it's because I moved everything." Her smile cracked. "What?" I stood. She slipped off my lap like a discarded napkin. "Jason, what the hell are you talking about?" "I mean everything," I said. "The business is gone. The accounts are frozen. Marcus is unemployed. And you? You're a free agent now." She blinked. "What are you saying?" I walked over to the kitchen counter, picked up her laptop, and opened the draft. "With you, I feel like a woman. He's just an ATM." Her face went ghost white. "You left it open," I said. "So thanks for the honesty." Or, well, partial honesty. She backed against the fridge like she was dodging a bullet. "Jason, it's not what you think." "No." I cut her off. Then explained the lingerie, the fake late-night work meetings, the monthly yoga retreats. "I made a mistake," she yelled. "No, Haley. A mistake is forgetting our anniversary. What you did was AF ****ing demolition." She folded her arms, suddenly cold. "You were never there. You buried yourself in work. You stopped making me feel seen. All you ever cared about was money." I nodded slowly. "That's ironic, since that's all you'll have none of now." She stared at me, realizing this wasn't a bluff. It wasn't a phase or a tantrum. It was a collapse. And I was letting it fall. "Jason, you don't understand," she said, her voice trembling now. "Marcus, he said things I needed to hear. He made me feel alive again. I didn't mean to hurt you." "You didn't hurt me," I replied, walking toward the door. "You ended me. But I rebuilt while you were too busy playing fantasy housewife with a gym trainer who doesn't know how to spell taxes. I picked up the envelope I'd prepared. Divorce papers. Already signed on my end. What's this? She asked, staring at it like it might bite. Freedom, I said. You wanted to feel like a woman? Now you can feel like an independent one. She screamed after me, the scream of someone who thought they held all the cards and just realized the table was burning. I left the door open behind me. Let her sit in the ashes. She didn't sign the papers right away. Of course not. That would have been too easy. Instead, Haley turned to her favorite weapon, manipulation. And when that didn't work, she tried chaos. First came the texts. Long, exhausting, tear-filled walls of regret. I didn't know what I was doing. Marcus wasn't serious. I was just lonely. Let's go to therapy. This doesn't have to be the end. Then she started weaponizing the past, digging up old wounds like a grave robber. Remember when I stayed by your side through your dad's funeral? She texted one night. I didn't leave then. Don't leave me now. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to say something. Anything. But I realized something in that moment. She wasn't crying for me. She was crying for her lifestyle. She didn't want me back. She wanted the house, the power, the safety net. The ATM she'd written about in that goddamn email. The next morning, I woke up to a smashed vase in the hallway. She was standing in the living room, barefoot, still in her silk robe, holding another one in her hand like a grenade. You think you can just erase me? She yelled, eyes wide and wild. I didn't answer. I just picked up the shards like it was Monday and the trash was going out. Like she was already part of the debris. She threw the second vase. It missed. Barely. You think you're strong now, she hissed. You think getting revenge makes you a man? No, I said calmly. I think not begging you to stay makes me one. Then she started crying. The ugly, messy kind. But I knew that cry. That wasn't pain. It was frustration. She wasn't sorry, she was trapped. And I had the key now. The house? In my name. The car? Bought with my company card frozen. The spa membership? Gone. The business trips? Over. Marcus had called me, by the way, 2 days after the company sale. He didn't know I owned the building his new employer operated in. Or used to. They were evicted on Wednesday. Bro, he said over the phone. You gotta be kidding. I lost my job, and now my *****ing apartment's gone. I didn't say a word. Just let him scream into the void until he hung up. By the end of the week, Haley moved into a hotel. She slammed the door behind her like she still had the upper hand. The silence she left behind? Delicious. But I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Women like Haley don't disappear quietly. They circle. They scheme. They come back when you least expect it, and they always bring poison. Still, I wasn't scared. She thought I was the ATM? Let her try making withdrawals now. It took exactly 11 days. That's how long she lasted on her own. On the 12th morning, I came back from the gym and saw her car in the driveway. Parked like it belonged there. Like she still belonged. I walked in slow. Calm. Careful. She was sitting on the couch, barefoot again, like always, with 2 suitcases and a smug smile. Like nothing had happened. Like the last 2 weeks were a bad dream, and I was just supposed to hand her a cup of coffee and forget she ever spit in my face. Jason, she said softly, we don't have to destroy each other. I dropped my gym bag. Didn't even look at her. Too late for that, Haley. The fire's already halfway through the house. She stood, walked toward me, tried to touch my arm. I stepped back. She laughed. You're really going to throw away 15 years because of one mistake? I looked her dead in the eye. No, I'm throwing it away because of 100 little choices you made that led to that mistake. You think this is about Marcus? It's about every lie. Every late night. Every time you rolled your eyes when I walked into a room like I was some boring old dog you had to keep feeding. Her eyes flashed. The softness evaporated. Oh, so now you're a victim? Jason, you worked 80-hour weeks. You were emotionally dead for years. I begged for your attention. No, I snapped, my voice finally cracking through the calm. You begged for adoration. And when you didn't get it, you went sniffing for it like a stray dog. Don't sell your betrayal as my failure. That did it. The rage broke through her mask. You think you're some kind of hero now, she spat. Everyone's going to know what you did. You think people won't talk about how you ruined your own wife? Sold your business just to get back at her? I smiled. Good. Let them talk. Let them know I was done being humiliated behind closed doors while playing the loving husband in public. Then she made her move. I want half, she said. Of everything. I laughed so hard it hurt my ribs. You'll be lucky if I let you keep your flat iron, I said. You want war, Haley? I already won it. You're crawling back to a battlefield that's already burned ash. She reached into her bag and pulled out a letter from a lawyer. You think I didn't plan to? She whispered. I know things, Jason, about your company, about your write-offs. You're not as clean as you think. I took the letter, skimmed it. Nothing I hadn't expected. Then I handed her my phone, opened the voice memos app. Here, I said. Press play. She did. And there it was, her own voice, telling Marcus how she was going to bleed me dry after the divorce. That she'd cry in court and play the sad little wife who gave everything for love. That I'd be done by the time she was finished. Her hands started shaking. You recorded me? I stared cold. Like you said, Haley, we don't have to destroy each other. But if you bring hell to my doorstep, don't be surprised if I answer with fire. She left again. No words this time. Just the sound of her heels pounding the floor. The silence after the door slammed felt different this time. Final point, 3 weeks passed. Quiet, like the eye of a hurricane. I stopped checking my phone for her messages. Stopped imagining her voice behind every spam call. My workouts got heavier. My meals got quieter. The house finally felt like mine. Then one night, just past midnight, I heard a knock on the door. Ghosts don't knock. But she did. I opened the door slowly, expecting the police, maybe a neighbor, hell, even Marcus with a bloody lip and a bruised ego. But no. Haley, standing there in a hoodie, no makeup, no games. Just swollen eyes, cracked lips, and a face that looked like she hadn't slept in days. I should have slammed the door. Should have laughed in her face. But curiosity? That's a hell of a drug. She looked up at me like a stray in the rain. Please. 5 minutes. I don't want to fight. I let her in. Biggest mistake of that week. She stepped in slowly, like the walls might bite her. And maybe they should have. They'd heard the arguments. They'd seen her lies peel off like bad wallpaper. She sat on the edge of the couch, trembling. I lost everything, she whispered. I stayed standing, arms crossed. You mean we lost everything, remember? I just got to choose the direction of the fall. She nodded. Didn't argue. Strange. I'm not here to take anything from you, she added. I just needed to say something. I waited. No words from me. I know I was cruel, she said. I know I lied. I used you. I wanted to feel powerful again, and I mistook your loyalty for weakness. I didn't think you'd do anything. And when you did, you didn't scream or cry. You just erased me. That part she said like it still haunted her. Like the worst punishment I gave her wasn't revenge, it was silence. I've been staying in my sister's guest room. No money, no job. Marcus ghosted me the day after he lost his. I think he was just using me for the perks. Shocker. She continued. I kept thinking about that email you read. The one I never meant to send. That doesn't make it better, I muttered. No, she said. But it makes it real. Because in that moment, that's what I felt. Like you were just there. A machine. But now? Now I realize you weren't just there. You were holding everything up. She looked up at me, tears slipping down her cheeks. I didn't say thank you. Not once. For the house. The nights you stayed up fixing client disasters. The dinners you missed because you were building our future. I didn't answer. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out something small. A ring. Her wedding band. I'm not here to ask for a second chance. Just to say, I destroyed something good. You didn't lose a wife. You shed a leech. I stared at the ring in her palm. The same one I'd slid on her finger 13 years ago, with a trembling hand and a heart full of hope. Now it looked like a dead thing. She stood, wiped her face, and placed the ring on the coffee table. I'll go. She walked past me. Paused at the door. I hope you find someone who knows how to see you. Then she was gone. And I was alone again. But for the first time. It didn't feel like a loss. After she left that night, I sat staring at the wedding ring she'd placed on the coffee table. It looked smaller than I remembered. Like it had shrunk under the weight of her lies. It was the silence that struck me the most. Not the kind that comes when someone walks out. The kind that sinks into the walls. The kind that listens. But peace has a price, and mine came due 2 days later. I got a call from my bank. A fraud alert. Someone tried to access your corporate account, the agent said. Attempted login from an unfamiliar device, flagged as high risk. I didn't even have to ask who. Haley had found a new angle. I checked my phone, dozens of missed calls from a blocked number, and one voicemail. Her voice? Slurred, drunk, angry. You think you won? You think this is over? You made me look like a fool. I gave you years, and you turned me into a joke. Everyone's laughing at me. You want war, Jason? Let's go. So much for her little apology tour. I contacted my lawyer that afternoon and moved to tighten the divorce filings, fast track, full freeze, no loopholes. I didn't just want her out of my life. I wanted every digital footprint erased. Then came the knock. Not her this time. 2 officers. Mr. Carter? We need to ask you some questions about an allegation your wife made. My heart dropped. Ex-wife, I corrected. She claimed you threatened her life in a voicemail. She doctored the call. I should have known. Played with the audio. Spliced my calm voice into something colder, darker. I never said anything like that, I told them. She's retaliating. I have the full call logs. One of them nodded. We figured. You don't sound like a guy who leaves threats. But protocol's protocol. They left after a quick search and a statement. I stood in the doorway, watching the patrol car drive off. My hands clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was scorched earth. She wasn't trying to come back. She was trying to burn what she couldn't own. That night, I called Marcus. He didn't answer, but I left a message. Short. Clear. She's coming for you next. Don't say I didn't warn you. By the end of the week, I heard he'd lost a car, a dog, and 2 credit cards. Turns out, when Haley hits bottom, she claws everyone on the way down. But here's the thing she never understood about me. I don't live at the top. I build from below. I rise from the ashes. And I never climb with snakes at my feet. I got my final court date 2 days later. Full divorce granted. No alimony. No assets split. She left with nothing. I walked out of the courthouse into the sunlight. No tie. No smile. Just that quiet, lethal calm of a man who'd survived the worst of someone and didn't flinch. At home, I finally picked up the ring from the table. Looked at it one last time. Then I tossed it into the fire. Watched it melt. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Some bridges don't just burn. They deserve to dot a week after the court date. Everything felt still. Not comma still. Like the moment before a storm, when the sky holds its breath and even the birds go quiet. Except the storm had already passed. And I was still standing. I started sleeping better. I didn't flinch when the doorbell rang. Didn't check the cameras for her car. Didn't care if she was watching from somewhere. She probably was. That was her nature. Never to heal, only to hover. Like a vulture, circling the ruins she caused. But I was done playing her victim. I poured my energy into rebuilding the business, this time smarter. Leaner. Without her fingerprints on anything. I partnered with Aiden, the same man I'd once sold the company to out of spite. Turns out, spite has a way of building bridges too. Glad to have you back, he told me. You look lighter. I was. 10 pounds down. Off her cooking, off her stress, off the weight of pretending everything was okay when it never was. Then came the email. Anonymous sender. No text. Just one image. A picture of Haley, crying in the lobby of some seedy motel. Her eyeliner smudged, her shirt stretched, one shoe missing. Attached was a caption. You took the light out of her. I stared at it for a full minute. Then I replied. She lit the match herself. Blocked the address. Moved on. But it stayed in my mind longer than I liked. Not because I missed her. God no. But because I realized something important. She wasn't chasing me anymore. She was chasing the version of herself she destroyed. That's the thing about manipulators. They don't mourn the love they lost. They mourn the control. I spent that weekend clearing out the last bits of her presence from the house. Old photo albums. Her books. That stupid spa robe she used to lounge in while texting other men. All of it in a box. At the bottom, I found the letter I'd written her years ago on our anniversary. The one she never responded to. It said, "Thank you for making a home out of chaos and a heart out of silence. I don't say it enough, but I see you." She never even opened it. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just pity. And relief that I was no longer wasting that kind of love on someone who only loved mirrors. Monday morning, I drove the box to a dumpster 3 blocks away. No dramatic burn. No symbolic speech. Just dropped it and left. Because closure isn't loud. It doesn't scream in your face. It whispers. You're done. That night, I sat on my porch with a glass of bourbon and watched the sunset for real, not through some tinted lens of fake smiles and deeper wounds. I was free. Not just from her. From the illusion of her. And the funny thing is, freedom doesn't always come wrapped in happiness. Sometimes, it walks in dressed as vengeance, nods quietly, and sits beside you like an old friend. No words needed. Just peace. It's strange how peace doesn't make a sound when it arrives. There's no loud moment, no applause, just stillness. Like the chaos was never here to begin with. I'd spent so long preparing for war, I didn't know what to do once the battlefield went silent. But that's the thing about surviving someone like Haley. Survival doesn't mean just staying alive. It means choosing not to carry the poison with you. Some nights, I still catch myself glancing at the door, like she might walk in with that fake grin and those crocodile tears. I wonder if she even remembers the man she married, or just the shell she carved him into. But now, I don't feel anger when I think of her. Just clarity. Because she taught me something. A painful, brutal lesson that most men never get the privilege of learning until it's too late. Loving someone isn't about how much you give. It's about what they do with what you give. I gave Haley loyalty, stability, protection. She used it to build a lie so pretty, even I wanted to believe it. But now I see it for what it was. She never wanted a husband, she wanted a stage. And I was just another prop. Would I go back and change it? No. Because every broken piece she left behind, I rebuilt. Stronger, sharper. And now I see people like her before they ever get close. That's a gift. A scarred one, but a gift nonetheless. To every man reading this or living through it. If she lies with ease, manipulates your kindness, and makes you feel crazy for her actions, run. Don't wait for her to tear everything down. Because by the time you see the ashes, she's already found another spark. And don't let her tears confuse you. Crocodiles cry too, right before they bite. I look around my life now, and it's quiet. Not lonely. Just quiet. My house is my own. My time is mine. And the next woman who steps into my world? She'll walk into something earned, not something borrowed, not something broken. I've started to live again. Simple things. A solo trip to Colorado. Cold beer on the porch with real friends. Hell, even laughing again, like really laughing, from the gut, without the fear of being punished for it later. And maybe one day, someone will come along who understands the value of loyalty without needing to be begged for it. But if she doesn't, I'll still be okay. Because I don't need someone to complete me anymore. I'm not an ATM. I'm not an emotional punching bag. I'm not a fallback guy when her fantasy blows up in her face. I'm a man who walked through fire and didn't just survive. I built a home in the ashes. Haley? I don't know where she is now. Maybe still lying to herself. Maybe chasing another man to blame. But I stopped chasing closure the moment I realized. The best revenge isn't ruining her life. It's rebuilding mine. Without her. And I have. Better. Stronger. Wiser. So if you ever get a letter like the one I did, with you, I feel like a woman. He's just an ATM. Don't respond. Just smile. Freeze every account. Sell the business. Watch her alpha lose everything. And walk away. Not because you're heartless, but because you finally remembered who you are. The first time I even thought something was off was when my youngest, Caleb, brought home a school project on ancestry. He's 12, all full of questions and wonder, building family trees and tracing roots. He kept asking me, "Dad, are we Mexican?" Mrs. Lopez said I might be. I laughed, nervously. I'm Irish-Italian. My wife, Brittany, is German descent. What Mexican? At first, I brushed it off. Kids get ideas. Teachers assume things. But once that thought was planted, it festered. I looked at Caleb. Really looked. His skin had always been a little tanner than mine. His black hair, dark eyes, didn't exactly match mine or Brittany's pale blue. I told myself not to go down that road. I wanted to trust my wife. We'd been married 16 years. High school sweethearts. Built a home. A life. Or so I thought. That night, I sat alone in the garage with a beer and a silent storm in my chest. Something wasn't right. And deep down, I think I already knew. I ordered a DNA test for Caleb, told Brittany it was for fun. She gave me a weird look, but didn't question it. That was mistake number one. Hers, not mine. 2 weeks later, the results came in. Mexican heritage, 47%. I stared at the screen like it had slapped me. Cold fingers gripped my spine. I refreshed the page. I double-checked. Then I walked into the bathroom, locked the door, and screamed into a towel like a madman. I'm not Mexican. My wife's boss, Carlos Martinez, is. A tall, charming, money-soaked piece of corporate slime. Regional VP at her marketing firm. The type of guy who wears silk ties, fake smiles, and cologne strong enough to choke a bull. Brittany had been working under him, with him, for almost 15 years. And suddenly, every suspicious moment I'd buried, every late-night presentation, Every business trip that didn't make sense, it all came flooding back like poison. I sat in silence for an hour, just reading that DNA report over and over, and it was like watching the walls of my life melt. But I wasn't stupid. I wasn't going to confront her without more. I needed confirmation. I needed the whole, ball picture. So I played dumb. For 2 weeks. I told Brittany I'd been promoted, that I'd be traveling more for work. She was thrilled. We could use the money, she said, eyes lit up like a lying little devil. I kissed her forehead, smiled, and set my plan in motion. I placed a tracker in her car, installed remote access to our home cameras, planted a small voice recorder in the kitchen light fixture. I was patient. I waited. And then, like clockwork, it happened. Thursday, 3:12 p.m. I watched Brittany walk in the front door, heels clicking on the floor, a bottle of red wine in her hand. Not unusual, until he followed behind her. Carlos. In my house. Wearing my cologne. Laughing. They didn't even make it to the bedroom. Right there, on the living room couch where my kids play Minecraft and eat popcorn, she dropped her jacket, pulled him in close, and whispered, "We have a few hours." He thinks I'm picking up groceries. I stopped the video. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. I couldn't breathe, couldn't cry, couldn't scream. I didn't feel human. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theater. She was putting on a show in my home, playing the role of perfect wife while sneaking in her boss to defile the life we built. 15 years. 15 years of lies, and I'd been too blind to see the truth wrapped in perfume and fake smiles. But it got worse. That night, I checked the recorder, and what I heard shattered the last pieces of my sanity. Carlos, you sure he's not suspicious? Brittany, laughs please. Rick, he still believes our first kid is his. Dumb as ever. I almost passed out. That's when the pain turned to something else. Something dark, sharp, focused. I didn't cry. I made a plan. I took samples from both my kids, sent them in for DNA testing under fake names. While I waited, I smiled, kissed her, slept next to her like nothing was wrong. But every night, I whispered in the dark, "You're going to pay for this." 5 days later, the results came back. Neither of them were mine. I remember holding the envelope in my hands, sealed and silent, like it was pulsing with rage. Inside were the official results. Confirming what I already knew, neither of my kids were mine. Not biologically, at least, but emotionally, spiritually. Every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every soccer game I stood in the rain for, that was me. Not Carlos. Not any other son of a bitch. Me. Still, the truth hit like a freight train with no brakes. Brittany came home that night wearing her little red dress, the one I bought her for our anniversary. Felt like dressing up, she said with a fake smile, tossing her purse on the kitchen counter. You want wine? I looked at her like I was seeing a stranger for the first time. No, not a stranger. A traitor. A fraud. A damn good actress. I've got something better, I said, holding the envelope out. She frowned, confused, then opened it. She barely read past the first line before her face turned sheet white. That's when I saw it, fear, just for a second. Then it vanished, swallowed by her usual smug arrogance. What is this? She asked, already in defensive mode. You tell me, I said quietly. Because last I checked, I didn't have a Mexican grandfather. Her lips tightened. DNA tests aren't always accurate. Try again. She tossed the paper on the counter. You've always been paranoid. Maybe if you weren't so obsessed with work, we'd have. Don't. I stepped closer. You've been screwing your boss for over a decade, Brittany. In my house. On my couch. While I was out breaking my back for this family. You think I wanted this life? She snapped. You think I wanted to marry some blue-collar has-been who never aimed higher than a steady paycheck and weekend barbecues? There it was. The bitch behind the mask. My fists clenched so hard I thought I'd crack bone. You used me, I said. No, she said, crossing her arms. I survived with you. Carlos saw my potential. You never did. That's when something inside me snapped. Not violently. Not explosively. Just final. Like a lock turning. I hope he likes raising my kids, I said calmly. Because you're not seeing them again. Her eyes widened. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I smiled. You'll find out. She lunged toward me, grabbing my arm. You're not taking my children. They're not yours either, I whispered. Not anymore. Then I walked out. I didn't pack a bag. Didn't take anything but my truck keys and the folder of test results. That night, I checked into a cheap motel and sat under the flickering light of a broken lamp, feeling like a ghost. Everything I'd known, everything I believed, was fake, fabricated, a script I never agreed to read from. But I wasn't broken. Not yet. The next morning, I called a lawyer, then a private investigator. Then I called in a favor from an old friend in IT who owed me big. By nightfall, I had access to Brittany's work emails, phone logs, GPS data, even texts. And what I found made me sick. She wasn't just having a fling. This was a love affair. Romantic weekends, fake conferences, secret bank accounts, pictures, notes. One email even said, "When Rick's out of the picture, we'll finally be free." That was all I needed to see. They wanted me gone. Perfect. I'd vanish. But not before they watched everything burn. That night, I sat in the motel parking lot, engine running, mind racing. The heat from the vents couldn't touch the cold crawling through my chest. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I was before. No, this was something different. Sharper, controlled, like the stillness before a storm. She thought she broke me. Carlos thought he won. My own family knew and said nothing. Every damn one of them watched me walk blind through a lie, year after year. But I had something they didn't. Silence, patience, and a will to destroy without leaving ashes behind. First thing I did, emptied our joint savings account. Every penny. Transferred it to a new account under a shell name I'd been using for small side gigs and freelance work. Brittany wouldn't notice until next payday. Too busy playing house with her Latin lover. Then I took a trip, off the radar. Rented a cabin 2 states away under a fake name. Disconnected everything. No social media. No phone. Just me, a burner cell, and my old laptop full of damning evidence. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted poetry. I sent a package to Carlos's wife. That's right. The good old corporate charmer was married. 2 kids. Church every Sunday. Image polished like a showroom Benz. Inside the envelope, screenshots, videos, emails, and a personal letter that read, "You deserve to know who's been sleeping in your bed when you're not around." From one betrayed spouse to another. Within a day, I heard through my investigator that Carlos's wife had kicked him out and filed for separation. The fallout at his job? Oh, it was glorious. HR got wind of his workplace relationship. Brittany was called into a disciplinary meeting the same week. But I wasn't done. Next step? My house. I waited until Brittany was out, probably crying on Carlos's lap, both of them wondering why everything was unraveling. I walked in, changed the locks, and left a single box of her things on the porch. Inside, I left 2 things. A copy of the kids' DNA tests. A note that said, "I built this life. You built a fantasy. Now you can both live in it." Then I left. Not just the house. Not just the city. I erased myself. Got a new job using a connection from years back. Small fishing town, off-grid, peaceful. I didn't even tell my best friend where I went. I wanted no pity, no sympathy. I wanted distance. And I got it. But the ghost of her still followed. Some nights I'd lie awake. Not because I missed her, but because I couldn't stop replaying it. The lies. The gaslighting. Her voice saying, "You think I wanted this life?" Echoing like venom in my skull. Every moment of doubt I had over the years, every time she made me feel less than, now made perfect, gut-wrenching sense. But the worst? Knowing the kids weren't mine. Not because of biology, but because I didn't get a choice. I gave them everything. My name. My time. My heart. And she took that from me too. But I'd made peace with one thing. They were still innocent. They didn't ask for this. And even if I wasn't their father on paper, I'd been the only real parent they ever had. Still, I couldn't go back. I had to disappear. I had to let her feel the void she created. Cold, merciless, permanent. A month passed before I heard anything. No calls. No texts. Just silence, like I never existed. That's what I wanted. To vanish. To become a question mark in her life she could never answer. But Brittany? She was unraveling. I got updates through my investigator, Greg. Old army buddy. He owed me his life from Kandahar. Now he worked freelance, quiet, efficient, loyal. "Your wife's been showing up at Carlos's job," he said one night over a secure call. "She caused a scene in the parking lot last week. Screamed something about him using her." I let out a dry laugh. Classic. The same woman who lied to me for 15 years, now crying betrayal because her lover wouldn't destroy his own life for her. Turns out Carlos had no intention of starting fresh with her. His wife, after receiving my little evidence package, filed for divorce, took the kids, the house, and half his assets. Word got out fast, and the board at his firm couldn't ignore the scandal. He was relieved of his duties less than 2 weeks after. No pension, no references. Poetic justice. And Brittany? She tried to salvage her job, but apparently, crying to HR about being manipulated by her boss didn't hold up well when there were emails of her planning hotel getaways and writing things like, "Can't wait to feel you again during our lunch break." She was fired. Publicly. Brutally. The cherry on top? She was now jobless, reputation ruined, and no idea where I was. Greg followed her once, to a courthouse. She tried to file for child support against me. Let that sink in. The same woman who lied about paternity, who built an entire life around deception, wanted me to pay for the children she created with another man. Bold doesn't even begin to describe it. But here's where it gets even better. The court needed confirmation of paternity to proceed. Guess what I had? A certified DNA test. I mailed it in with a single sticky note attached. Nice try. Case dismissed. I didn't even need to show up. Greg said she cried in the hallway after. Screamed into her phone. Probably calling her mother, the same woman who once told me, "You're lucky to have Brittany. Don't mess it up." Turns out her whole damn family knew. They always knew. When I confronted her mom weeks before I disappeared, she just looked at me and said, "Sometimes people lie to protect what they have." What a joke. No one protected me. No one warned me. I was the loyal idiot funding a life where everyone around me played a part in my humiliation. But I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. Because in that quiet little fishing town, waking up to the sound of gulls and waves instead of fake apologies and the smell of someone else's cologne on my couch, I found peace. I fished in the mornings. Worked construction in the afternoons. Simple life. Clean life. I made friends who didn't ask questions. They just knew me as Rick, the guy who likes his coffee black and his music loud. But the past wasn't gone. Not really. It lingered in the mirror. In every scar I didn't know I had. In every time I caught a father playing with his kid and felt a twist in my gut. But I never reached out. Never called. Not even once. If Brittany wanted to know where I was, she'd have to look at the ashes she stood in and realize she lit the match. It was a rainy Thursday when I wrote the letter. I hadn't planned on it. I was sitting on the dock, watching the fog roll over the bay, when this wave of emotion hit me, sharp and sudden. It wasn't rage or sadness. It was something colder. A bitter kind of clarity. I went back to the cabin, sat at my desk, and started writing. No plan. Just raw truth bleeding out of my hand. It started like this. "Brittany, you don't deserve this letter, but I need to get it out. Not for you, for me." I wrote for hours. About the lies. The little ones. The ones she told with her eyes more than her mouth. I reminded her of our first house, the one we painted together. I told her how I remembered the way she looked the night she said, "I do," and how that woman doesn't exist anymore. Then I wrote about Caleb and Olivia. Not mine by blood, but mine in every other way. I told her the day Caleb scored his first goal in soccer was one of the proudest days of my life, and how I still keep his drawing of me and Dad tucked in my wallet. And then, I wrote this. I would have forgiven you, not for the affair, but for the truth, if you'd given it to me when it still mattered. But you chose 15 years of pretending over one hard conversation. I sealed the letter, addressed it, never mailed it. It still sits in the drawer, under a stack of bills and fishing licenses. A reminder, not of what she did, but of how close I came to letting her poison crawl back into my life. Because deep down, a part of me still missed her. And that was the scariest part. Not the betrayal, not the humiliation, but the memory of loving someone who never existed. The next week, I got an anonymous letter. No return address. No signature. Just 4 words, scribbled in shaky handwriting. "You left too soon." I burned it, because it reeked of her. Desperation. Manipulation. That sick little game she played where she'd flip the script and make me the villain. Like I was the one who walked out without reason. Like I was the coward. But I didn't walk away, I escaped. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I called Greg. "Keep tabs on her," I said. 3 days later, he called back. "She's in therapy. Alone. Looks like she's drinking a lot. Moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. No job. Carlos left town completely." I nodded, not sure what I felt. "Maybe nothing. She is skin about you?" "Only every day," he said. Apparently, she called your old office 12 times last month. Good, I said. Let her wonder. But that night, I dreamed about her. Not the Brittany who tore my world apart. The one from back then. The girl who used to fall asleep on my chest watching old horror movies. The girl who used to write love notes on sticky pads and hide them in my lunchbox. I woke up in a sweat. Because I knew now, that girl never existed. She was a mask. A performance. And I bought a front row ticket to the longest running betrayal of my life. So I got up, made coffee, sat at the dock, and reminded myself that disappearing wasn't the revenge. Living well was. 6 months had passed. The air in the small coastal town had started to shift. Warmer winds, longer days, the scent of salt always lingering. My beard had grown out, my shoulders loosened. Most days I felt like a man again, not a ghost. The pain? Still there. But like an old scar, it stung when poked, but no longer bled. I didn't check in on Brittany often. I didn't need to. But one day, Greg called with something different in his voice. You're not gonna like this, he said. Try me. She's trying to find you. Real hard this time. I let out a slow breath. How hard? She hired a PI. Guy's green, dumb as hell, but he's making noise. Called your old landlord. Left messages with your cousin in Ohio. I chuckled. She's desperate. She's determined. You want me to handle it? No, I said. Let her try? Let her choke on the silence. But it shook me more than I let on. That night, I went to the bar on the pier, nursed a whiskey neat, and stared out at the waves. The bartender, Nora, a tough woman with steel eyes and a wicked laugh, leaned over. You look like you just saw a ghost, she said. Close, I muttered. My past. She nodded, poured me another. Ghosts don't scare me. It's the living that'll ruin you. Smart woman. A week later, she found me. I was walking through the Saturday market, picking up some fruit, when I felt it. Eyes on my back. I turned and saw her. Brittany, standing 10 feet away, in jeans and a windbreaker, hair tied up like the old days, but her face, tired, worn down. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. But still, the moment she locked eyes with me, she gave that smile. That same crooked, manipulative smile. Rick, she said. My name sounded wrong coming out of her mouth. Leave, I said. I just want to talk. There's nothing to say. Please, just 10 minutes. The market around us kept moving, people buying peaches and candles, kids running with sticky hands. And there we were, two broken people standing in the wreckage of a life. I didn't speak. She did. I messed up, she said. I know I did. But I miss you. Not just the comfort. You. The way you looked at me. No one's ever looked at me like that again. Because they see who you really are now, I said flatly. She flinched. You don't understand. Carlos told me he'd leave his wife, he promised. Don't you dare make this about him, I snapped. You had a choice every single day. And you chose him. You chose lies. For 15 goddamn years. Her eyes welled up, but I didn't feel pity. Not anymore. I think about the kids, she whispered. They still ask about you. I clenched my jaw. That hit harder than anything else. I'm not their father, I said. You made sure of that. You were. That's the difference between you and me. I don't fake roles. She reached out, her fingers brushing my sleeve. Rick, please. I stepped back. No. She froze, lips trembling. I didn't vanish because I hated you, I said, voice low. I vanished because if I stayed one more minute in your orbit, I would have lost myself. Tears finally fell. Real ones, maybe. Too late either way. I turned and walked away. Didn't look back. That night, I sat on the dock again. The sky was wide and quiet. Stars spread like a fresh start. She found me, and I still walked away. That's when I realized I'd finally won. The next morning, I expected some kind of fallout. A message. Another desperate plea. Some twisted attempt at closure. But my phone stayed silent, just the way I liked it. Brittany was gone, again, but this time, she hadn't left me. I had left her. And there's a different kind of power in that. It hits differently when you realize you don't need revenge to feel victorious. When you don't yell, don't hit, don't beg. You just leave. You walk away so clean, so quiet, it drives the guilty mad. I knew Brittany wasn't done. People like her never are. She thrived on chaos. She needed someone to blame, to twist, to pull back into her orbit. But I was done being her gravity. Greg called the next evening. She booked a hotel in town. Checked out the same day. Let her go, I said. You sure? She's already gone. I stood outside the cabin after that call, the night wrapping around me like a new skin. The air smelled like pine and ocean mist. I lit a cigarette, even though I'd quit years ago. Just needed the burn, the quiet crackle in the silence. I thought about everything. The kids, the betrayal, the cowardice of people who looked me in the eye and smiled while stabbing me in the back. And you know what stuck with me most? It wasn't Brittany's lies, or Carlos's smug, tan face. It was the look in my son's eyes, Caleb, when he once asked me, "Are you proud of me, Dad?" And I was. So damn proud. That was real. I was real. Even if the blood said otherwise, I gave him what no one else did, a father. And no DNA test can erase that. It took me months to realize I didn't need revenge. I didn't need Brittany to suffer, because she already was. She'd lost the one person who truly believed in her. The man who showed up every day, even when she didn't deserve it. She traded loyalty for lust, love for cheap thrills, stability for whispers and hotel sheets. And now she had nothing. I, on the other hand, had peace. Real, uninterrupted, bone-deep peace. I fished every morning, fixed boats for cash, played poker with old guys at the bar. On Sundays, I helped rebuild the town's old dock. The mayor even joked I should run for local council. People here didn't ask questions. They just accepted me. Rick, the man with rough hands, a quiet laugh, and eyes that carried weight. No one knew what I came from. No one needed to. Because I wasn't that man anymore. The man who cried in motel bathrooms. Who stared at DNA reports like they were execution orders. Who slept next to a woman who smiled with someone else's mouth on her lips. I buried him. Let him go. And what rose in his place wasn't bitter. It wasn't even angry. It was free. So when Greg called again a week later and said, "She's back in town. Wants to talk again," I didn't hesitate. "No. Thought you'd say that," he chuckled. She looked rough. Not my problem anymore. And it wasn't. Because walking away didn't just save me. It destroyed her. She expected screams. Tears. A desperate man begging to understand why. Instead, I gave her nothing. And in that nothing, she found the truth. I was never coming back. It's been 5 years now. 5 long, strange, healing years since I disappeared from the life I once thought was mine. Since the moment I held a DNA test in my hands and realized I'd been living in someone else's fantasy, an illusion crafted with polished lies and lipstick smiles. And still not a day goes by that I don't remember. But the pain? It no longer owns me. I live in a small house near the edge of the bay now. The kind with chipped paint and creaky floors, but it's mine. Everything in it is mine. The tools in the shed. The coffee mug with the chipped rim. The wooden chair I fixed myself. I don't need much. Simplicity is underrated. Some days I see families walk by. Fathers holding their children's hands. Sometimes I wonder if Caleb and Olivia remember me. If they ever ask themselves why Dad just vanished. If they hate me. Or if, maybe, deep in some buried part of their hearts, they understand. That I left not because I stopped loving them, but because I was never allowed to love them truthfully. I left so I wouldn't teach them that loyalty should be repaid with betrayal. Brittany never found me again. Greg said she stopped trying 2 years ago. Word is, she moved to Nevada. Works at a wine bar now. Alone. Still chasing validation in half-empty glasses and strangers' compliments. Carlos. He remarried. Young girl. Moved to Texas. From what I hear, she caught him cheating last year. Some men never change. And me? I changed. I forgave. Not for her. For me. Because hate is heavy. And it doesn't hurt the ones who hurt you. It only keeps you shackled to the past. So I let go. Of the rage. The revenge. The image of her in our living room with her blouse unbuttoned and his belt on the floor. I buried all of it under the quiet of a new life. Sometimes I write. Just for me. Letters I'll never send. Words I'll never say aloud. One of them starts like this. Dear Caleb, you may never read this. You may never know how much I loved you. But every goal you scored, every laugh you gave, every time you called me Dad, those were the realest moments of my life. I hope you become a man who knows how to recognize truth. And when you find it, never let it go. I never blame them. Not even for a second. They were kids caught in a web they didn't weave. And though the bloodline isn't mine, I still carry memories that are. And memories, unlike people, don't betray you. They fade, but they stay honest. One day, maybe I'll run into them. Maybe I'll be an old man sitting on a bench, and Caleb will walk by. And for just a moment, our eyes will meet. and he'll wonder where he's seen me before. And I'll smile, because I'll know, and that will be enough. I took ultimate revenge not by screaming, not by burning the house down, not by sinking to her level, but by walking away with dignity and never looking back. She wanted me broken. Instead, I became untouchable, and that silence I left behind, it still haunts her, because the loudest revenge in this world is peace. She froze like a deer in headlights. Her keys clattered to the floor, echoing through the quiet house. For a second, the only sound was the buzzing of her phone in my hand and the ticking clock on the wall, the same one we bought together when we moved in. Tara, I repeated, this time louder, colder. Whose apartment did you just leave? She blinked fast, trying to find a lie that would sound even halfway believable. I told you, it was a girls' night, she stammered, her voice cracking. We had a few too many. I crashed at Emily's place. Emily, convenient scapegoat. Funny thing was, Emily called me hours ago, worried sick because Tara never showed up. I leaned forward, tossed her buzzing phone on the coffee table. You sure it wasn't Jason's place? I asked, keeping my voice even. Her mouth opened, then closed, like a fish yanked from water, choking on the weight of truth. I tapped the screen. The message was still there, glowing bright against the darkness. Jason, last night was insane. Can still taste you. Her hands trembled. Her eyes darted toward the front door like she was calculating whether she could run from this. You went through my phone, she barked suddenly, like a fence would distract from guilt. That was the switch. That's when the woman I once loved turned full venom. I can't believe you don't trust me. Spying? Seriously? You're disgusting, Mark. I stood slowly, took a step toward her. You came home wearing a stranger's cologne. You reek of it. You lied to my face. And you're mad because I confirmed what I already knew. She scoffed, grabbed her purse. Maybe if you'd acted like a man instead of some sad, boring loser, I wouldn't have needed anything from anyone else. Boom. There it was. The truth. The venom behind the fake smiles, the cold sexless months, the silent dinners and half-hearted kisses. She wanted me to break, to scream, to beg. That would have given her control. But I didn't. I was done bleeding for a woman who fed off betrayal like oxygen. You think I'm boring? I whispered, stepping closer. Then let me entertain you. I walked to the kitchen drawer, pulled out the thick brown envelope labeled, for Tara, the one I'd been preparing for weeks. I dropped it in front of her. She opened it. Printed screenshots. Dozens. Every text. Every photo. Jason shirtless. Tara smiling, half naked, in our bed while I was away visiting my dying uncle. Receipts from hotels. A printed map of every location her GPS history showed in the past month. Even the note from Jason. I wish she'd just leave her husband already. She paled. You think this is a game? I said. You humiliated me. Lied to my face. And now you're going to cry because I caught you. Tears welled up, not from guilt, but fear. Fear that her little fantasy life was unraveling. Please, Mark, she whispered. Let's talk. It's not what you think. Don't. I cut in. Don't insult me by trying to twist this. You made your choices. And now, I'll make mine. She collapsed onto the couch, shaking, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. She looked small, pathetic, like a coward caught in a spotlight. But me? I felt nothing. Just a steady clarity. A fire that had burned down to sharp, clean ash. This wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. She sat there motionless on the couch, flipping through every page of evidence like it was a death sentence, and maybe, for her fantasy life, it was. Jason's name popped up in almost every screenshot. One message still stuck in my head. He's so dull. I fake every moan just to get it over with. You're the only one who makes me feel alive. That line hit harder than any punch. Tara wiped her face, trying to regain control. Okay, yes, she hissed. Yes, I've been seeing Jason. But it's not like I planned it, Mark. It just happened. I felt invisible here. I chuckled, bitter. Invisible? You mean like how I felt when you faked every smile for months? When you said you were working late, but were actually screwing some married salesman in a hotel off the freeway. She jumped up. You don't get it. You've been distant too. Always busy, always tired. Busy making money so you could play house in comfort, I snapped. Busy making this life work while you were too busy spreading your legs for someone who doesn't even respect his own wife. Her face twisted into a snarl. You're not perfect either. You think just because you didn't cheat that makes you some kind of saint. No, I said flatly. It makes me someone who didn't lie every day for a year. The silence between us was like a vacuum. I could hear her breathing fast, like an animal cornered. But I wasn't there to give her an escape route anymore. I was done patching up her messes. She looked around the room, probably realizing for the first time how cold it had gotten between us. Our wedding photo still hung above the fireplace. I walked over, took it down, and placed it face down on the floor. The past had no place here anymore. I want you out, I said quietly. She blinked. What? You heard me. Pack your things and go. Tonight. No, Mark, this is my home too. Not anymore. I pointed to the envelope. The car? In my name. The house? Mine before we married. I've already talked to a lawyer. You're going to walk away with nothing but your cheap lace and your lies. She backed up like I'd slapped her. You can't do that. I gave you the best years of my life. I laughed out loud. You gave them to Jason. And probably others, for all I know. Her face crumbled, and for a second, I saw it, the panic of a woman who had finally lost control of her little charade. But I didn't feel bad. Not for a second. She deserved worse. I walked to the front door, opened it, and stared at her. You've got 10 minutes. She hesitated. Then she grabbed her phone, her purse, and stormed out without a word. No apology. No remorse. Just rage. As the door slammed behind her, I locked it, leaned against it, and let the silence fill me. For the first time in months, I felt free. Empty, but free. Like I could finally breathe again. But even as I stood there, I knew this wasn't over. She wasn't the kind to go quietly. And Jason? He didn't know I'd been watching him too. They both thought they were clever. But I had plans of my own. And they were going to feel every ounce of pain they fed me tenfold. Tara was gone, but the stink of her betrayal still lingered in every room of the house. Her perfume clung to the pillows. A forgotten heel sat beneath the coffee table, like a monument to her filth. But I didn't touch anything. I wanted it all to stay exactly as it was, frozen in time, untouched, so that when the fire started, there'd be no doubt who lit the match. I sat down at my desk and pulled out the second envelope. This one was labeled Jason Walker, HR copy. See, Jason wasn't just some random affair partner. He worked with Tara. Same office. Same floor. Company policy strictly prohibited workplace relationships, especially between married employees. And I had every shred of proof HR would ever need. Screenshots. Call logs. Even photos from the PI I'd hired 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I went that far. I opened my email and drafted a message. To whom it may concern. Attached you'll find substantial evidence of a workplace affair involving your employee Jason Walker. This conduct violates internal policy and poses a reputational and legal risk to your organization. Sincerely, an anonymous concerned party. I had sinned. Jason's world was about to implode before he even got his morning coffee. But that wasn't enough. Not for me. I wanted face-to-face. I needed to see the fear, the regret, the pathetic, stammering downfall. So I got in my car and drove to their office the next morning, arriving just after 8 a.m. I knew Jason parked in the back lot. That silver Audi of his, washed obsessively every Sunday, was already in its usual spot. I waited. 8:17 a.m., there he was, walking toward the building, sunglasses on, phone in hand, laughing like the world was his. I stepped out of my car and blocked his path. He looked up and froze. Mark, he said, stiffening. Didn't expect to see you here. I know, I said calmly. You expected me to keep being the clueless husband. He scratched his head, trying to smile. Look, man, this isn't how it seems. I stepped closer. Don't insult me, Jason. You're not slick. You left a trail so sloppy even a toddler could follow it. He dropped the smile. Okay, fine. It happened. I'm not proud of it. But it's between me and Tara, not you. My blood boiled. He had the nerve to act like I was the outsider in this? No, I said, leaning in. See, it's between all three of us. But don't worry, you're about to have plenty of time to explain things. To HR. To your wife. His face went pale. I already emailed them, I continued. And your wife? She'll be getting a courier package around noon today. Pictures included. You might want to clear your afternoon. He looked like he'd been shot. Mouth hanging open. Shoulders slumped. You're psycho, he muttered. You think this makes you better? No, I said, turning away. But it makes me free. I didn't hit him. Didn't need to. The wreckage I left behind would bruise more than any fist ever could. Back in the car, I took a long breath. The anger was still there, but now it had shape, direction. I was done crying over broken vows. Now it was about consequences. About making sure every brick they threw at my life came back to crush theirs. But just as I started the engine, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You think it's over? You think you won? You just started a war. Tara. Smiling bitterly, I whispered to myself, good. I've been itching for a fight. The text from Tara didn't shake me. It confirmed what I already knew. She was a woman who couldn't stand losing. And worse, she couldn't stand being outplayed. But this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about taking back every piece of myself she tried to rip apart. That afternoon, I came home to find the front gate wide open. That was my first sign. The second? The door wasn't locked. And the third? Her. Tara sat on the living room couch like she never left. Legs crossed. Wine glass in hand. Wearing his hoodie. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, slamming the door behind me. She didn't flinch. Just sipped her wine and smiled with that smug look I used to mistake for confidence. Relax, Mark. We're still married, remember? She said slowly. I have a right to be here. No, you don't, I snapped. You gave that up the second you walked out with Jason's aftershave on your throat. She stood now, eyes burning. Oh, please. Spare me the victim act. You've been waiting to play the hero, haven't you? Sending emails, calling wives, digging through my trash. You think you're noble? You're pathetic. I stepped closer, calm but tight. You broke every promise you ever made to me. You cheated in my house. In our bed. I'm not the pathetic one. Tara, you are. Her face twisted. You never saw me. You just wanted a trophy wife who smiled and cooked and said yes to everything. Jason made me feel. Don't, I said through clenched teeth. Don't pretend you're the victim in your own mess. You didn't feel neglected. You felt entitled. To more attention. More praise. More men. She slapped me. I didn't move. The slap barely registered. I think she expected me to scream, to break, to shove her back. But I just stood there. She was the one trembling now. You're angry, I said, voice low. You're angry because I won't let you ruin me and get away clean? She looked away, lips twitching. Jason lost his job. Good. His wife kicked him out. Even better. Her eyes darted up, panicked now. And now you're what? Going to ruin me too? You want me to beg? I walked to the fireplace and tossed the framed wedding photo inside. Watch the glass shatter. I don't want you to beg. I want you to vanish. You loved me once, she whispered. No, I said. I loved the woman you pretended to be. She stepped toward me, one hand grazing my chest. I soft. We could start over. Wipe the slate clean. I'll do anything, Mark. She was always good at this, weaponizing softness. Twisting guilt into lust, shame into promises. But it didn't work anymore. You're not sorry, I said, brushing her hand away. You're scared. That's not the same thing. She blinked, then smiled again, but now it was cracked, desperate. You'll regret this. I opened the door. No. I regret ever thinking you were worth the pain. She walked out slowly, pausing on the porch like she expected me to call her back. I didn't. That night, I poured myself another glass of whiskey and sat in the kitchen with the lights off. I stared at the silent phone. No messages. No calls. For once, peace. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Women like Tara don't disappear. They retaliate. They twist the story. And I could already feel the storm brewing. She wouldn't go down quietly. But neither would I. 3 days of silence. No texts. No calls. No unexpected visits. I almost allowed myself to believe it was over. That maybe, just maybe, Tara had crawled back under the rock she slithered out from. But then the knock came. I opened the door to find 2 police officers standing on my porch. One of them, an older guy with a clipped mustache, looked at a clipboard. Mark Rivers. Yes. You're being served with a temporary restraining order. Issued this morning. I blinked. What the hell are you talking about? The younger cop handed me a folder. Your wife claims you've been harassing her, threatening her safety, and showing up at her work. Bullshit. Tara filed a false claim. I knew it instantly. And the timing? Right after I exposed her affair, right after Jason's life blew up? This was retaliation. Her coward's version of a counterattack. She's lying, I said through my teeth. The older officer didn't look surprised. We're not here to determine guilt. Just delivering the order. You'll have a court hearing in 7 days. You can contest it there. They left. I stood in the doorway, staring at the paper like it was written in another language. My hands trembled, not from fear, but fury. She wasn't just trying to save face. She was trying to destroy mine. I read the complaint inside. Pages of fiction. Claims that I'd followed her car, threatened her life, even banged on her apartment windows at night. None of it was true. But the way the system worked, I had to now prove my innocence. I sat at the kitchen table, rage boiling. She was playing dirty, and I was done playing fair. I picked up my phone and called Carla, Jason's wife. She deserved to know everything. Not just the affair, but who Tara really was. I told her everything. Sent her the screenshots, the timeline, the restraining order. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just said, "Meet me." 2 hours later, we sat at a quiet cafe. Carla was calm, focused, colder than I expected. "She's trying to flip the script," she said, sipping her espresso. Typical narcissist. Burn down a life, then cry about the smoke. "She's taking it public," I said. "Posting cryptic crap online, making it look like I'm some obsessed psycho who can't let go." Carla smirked. "Let her talk. I've got friends in family court. And once we expose this, judges won't touch her with a 10-foot pole." That's when we made the decision. Full legal assault, civil defamation, counter-restraining order, petition for financial damages. Every ugly detail made public. But I wasn't stopping there. I hired a media consultant. Not to make myself look good, but to make her lies transparent. We gathered voice recordings, messages, video footage from the PI. Everything. 2 days later, Tara posted a tearful video on Instagram. "I never thought the man I married would become this controlling. I fear for my safety." It went viral. Sympathy poured in. But she made one mistake. The background of the video? My front porch. The one she wasn't supposed to be near because of the mutual no-contact clause in her own divorce lawyer's agreement. That was all I needed. My attorney filed for contempt within an hour. The game she started with lies? I was going to end with facts. Not out of spite. Out of principle. Because while she played victim, I was building a case. And when the truth dropped, it wouldn't just end her act. It would bury it. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not the temperature, just the atmosphere. Clinical. Sterile. No emotion. Like justice was some machine that didn't care who bled under its gears. But I wasn't here for sympathy. I came with ammo. And Tara? She came in designer heels and crocodile tears. She wore white. Of course she did. She took the stand first, voice quivering like she'd spent the last week rehearsing with a box of tissues and a mirror. "He used to love me," she told the judge, lip trembling. "But when I said I wanted space, he turned obsessive. He wouldn't stop calling. He even threatened to ruin my life." She dabbed at imaginary tears while I clenched my fists under the table. Lies. All of it. The judge looked at her with polite skepticism. He'd heard it all before. And when my lawyer stood, the tide shifted fast. We submitted everything. GPS logs showing she came to my house after the alleged harassment began. Screenshots of her messages begging to talk things through. Footage from a neighbor's security cam showing her lurking around my property at 3 a.m. Her viral Instagram video, filmed on my porch, where she wasn't allowed to be. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Tara, were you aware this video was recorded at Mr. Rivers' residence?" She froze. Stammered. I was just passing by. I didn't go inside." "But you had a restraining clause in your separation terms," my lawyer pressed. "You knowingly violated it." Silence. Tara's face lost all its color. The judge leaned forward. "I find your testimony inconsistent and misleading. This court does not tolerate manipulative misuse of restraining orders." I wanted to smirk, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited for the final blow. My lawyer pulled out the audio file. Jason's voice, slurred and cocky. "Yeah, she said she was gonna set him up. Get him charged. Said it'd make the divorce easier." A recorded bar conversation. He didn't know I had it. Neither did she. The courtroom went silent. Tara's hands shook. She whispered something to her lawyer, who looked ready to crawl under the table. The judge shook his head. "Request for restraining order is hereby dismissed. Furthermore, I am referring this matter for review of potential perjury and defamation charges." That was it. The end of her little fantasy. She stormed out of the courtroom without looking at me, heels clicking like gunshots. The door slammed behind her, and for a moment, everything was still. I stepped outside, the sun sharp in my eyes. Carla was waiting by the steps, arms folded. She handed me a coffee. "Told you," she said. "Liars always overplay their hand." "I didn't do it to win," I said. "I did it because truth deserves to be louder than fiction." She nodded. "Well, it's loud now." We sat on the courthouse steps for a few minutes, watching the world go on. Tara was probably on her phone already, spinning a news story. Maybe about a corrupt judge, a rigged case, a cruel ex-husband. She could have that. But no one believed her anymore. Not after today. Later that night, I opened my inbox to find a single email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line: I'm sorry. It was Tara. I didn't open it. Some doors stay closed for a reason. I didn't reply to her email. The subject line: I'm sorry, sat there like a bomb with the pin still in. But I learned something about Tara. Her apologies weren't admissions of guilt. They were traps. Fishing hooks wrapped in fake regret. Bait for another round of control. But this time, the line stayed dry. Instead of answering, I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Let her team deal with it. Me? I had more important things to do, like getting my life back. The court battle was over, sure. She lost. Publicly. Spectacularly. But fallout has aftershocks, and hers were just beginning. Word spread fast. Jason was already jobless, homeless, and halfway through a divorce his wife was ripping through like a lawyered-up hurricane. And Tara? She'd gone from influencer to infamous in a matter of days. Turns out the internet doesn't love cheaters who weaponize fake abuse stories. Brands pulled sponsorships. Her followers turned on her. A few even dug up her old tweets, some nasty, entitled garbage she thought had been long deleted. I didn't even have to lift a finger. Karma had a better work ethic than I ever did. But I wasn't sitting idle either. I started rebuilding. Not just my reputation, but myself. The version of me that existed before the lies. I reconnected with friends I'd ignored. I rejoined my old boxing gym. Hadn't stepped in that place in years. The first time I hit the heavy bag, I imagined her face on it. That bag didn't stand a chance. I moved into a new apartment. Sleek, clean, mine. No leftover perfume on the sheets. No phony smiles at breakfast. Just quiet mornings, black coffee, and peace. Real peace, not the "I hope she doesn't start a fight today" kind. One evening, around midnight, my phone lit up again. Tara. This time, a message. I miss us. I miss you. We were broken, but we were real. Please, just talk to me. Just once. I stared at it for a while. Not out of hesitation, but because of how empty I felt. There was a time I would have read that and broken apart. A time I'd replay it in my head 100 times, wondering if maybe, just maybe, there was something to save. But not anymore. I typed out one word. No. Then I blocked her. Number, email, socials. Everything. She had taken so much from me, trust, time, dignity, but she wasn't getting another second of my attention. 3 days later, Carla sent me a message. She's telling people you emotionally manipulated her into cheating. It's pathetic. I laughed. Let her talk. She's just choking on her own ashes now. But Carla had an idea. Let's really bury it, she said. A podcast. You, me, and the truth. At first, I said no. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were thousands of people out there just like me. Gaslit, betrayed, destroyed from the inside. And all they ever hear is, just move on. But no one ever tells them how. So I did it. We recorded 3 episodes. I didn't name names. I didn't scream. I just told the truth raw and real. And it exploded. People wrote in from all over the country. Men, women, people broken by betrayal and finally feeling seen. Tara tried to counter with her own video. He's lying. He's twisting everything. But by then, no one cared. Because she didn't just lose the story. She lost the narrative. And I finally found mine. The podcast kept growing. I never expected it to. I thought it'd just be therapy for me, maybe a signal flare for a few others out there in the dark. But by the end of the second month, we had sponsors, press interviews, even a short feature in Men's Health. It wasn't about Tara anymore. It was about healing, about what happens after betrayal. Still, that didn't mean her shadow was gone. I got a call one morning, unknown number again. I answered it without thinking. Mark, she said. Just like that. No hesitation. No shame. Tara, I replied flatly. There was silence. Then, I'm not doing well. I thought I could handle it, but everyone's turned on me. Jason won't even talk to me. My parents think I'm toxic. And now, you've got strangers talking about me without ever saying my name. That's because it's not about you, I said. It never was. It's about what you represent. You're profiting off my pain, she snapped suddenly. You're making me the villain. No, I said calmly. You made yourself the villain. I just stopped protecting your image. She went quiet again, this time for a long while. Then she said something I didn't expect. something I'd waited to hear for months, but when it came, it felt hollow. I'm sorry, Mark, for everything. I didn't say a word, because silence can be an answer. You won't even forgive me? She asked, voice breaking. I already did, I said quietly. But forgiveness isn't the same as access. You don't get to come back just because I'm no longer angry. She hung up. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. In the months that followed, she drifted further and further into the background. New scandals replaced her old ones. The internet moved on. So did I. I met someone, eventually. Her name's Rachel. We met at a bookstore of all places, both reaching for the same copy of The Art of Not Giving AF ***. She laughed when I let her take it. Rachel didn't ask for my story. She let it come out in its own time. And when it did, she didn't flinch. She didn't judge. She didn't try to fix me. She just listened. She was the opposite of Tara in every way that mattered: quiet confidence instead of loud manipulation, sincerity instead of strategy, loyalty without conditions. 6 months later, I deleted every trace of my ex-wife from my phone, my photos, my cloud backups. Like she was never there. Like the nightmare had finally ended. But if you ask me what I truly learned from it all, I'd say this. Pain is a teacher. Betrayal is a filter. And sometimes the person who breaks you does you the biggest favor of all. They destroy the life you thought you wanted, so you can build the one you actually deserve. I don't hate Tara anymore. I don't love her either. She's just a chapter. An ugly one. A painful one. But I turned the page. So if you're reading this, if you're the guy sitting on the couch, heart in pieces, staring at a phone full of lies, know this. You're not weak for hurting. You're not crazy for loving the wrong person. And you're damn sure not done. You're just beginning. I stood behind the barn, phone in hand, heart pounding like a war drum, as I hit send on the video. My wife's face was on screen, lips parted, whispering, "Bob gave me the baby I always wanted." That was the moment. No coming back. No mercy. I'd sent the clip to my lawyer, the judge, and to Bob's pregnant wife. She had no idea. And as I stepped inside, she greeted me with that fake, plastic smile she wore every time she lied. She thought I was still the fool who brought her coffee every morning, who kissed her forehead before bed, who ignored the late-night texts and cold shoulders. "Kyle," she purred. "We need to talk." I stared at her. I wanted to scream, to throw something. But I didn't. "Sure, Emily," I said. "What's on your mind?" She walked over slowly, like she was about to give me a surprise gift. "I'm leaving you," she said. Bob and I were engaged now. She smiled like she expected me to fall to my knees. "And guess what?" she added. "Your parents are hosting our engagement party next week. They said you were always too soft. Bob's a real man." I didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at her. She thought she had the upper hand, thought she'd won. She didn't know that 2 days ago, I found the hidden phone she kept in the guest room drawer. The one with the videos, the texts, the voice memos. She didn't know I'd been watching, listening to her say the nastiest things about me while wrapped in my best friend's arms. She didn't know I recorded her confession last night, when she finally admitted everything, thinking I'd still beg her to stay. But most of all, she didn't know this wasn't her story anymore. It was mine, and I was about to burn it all down. The moment she walked away, tossing her perfect little lie over her shoulder like it was nothing, I stood there, frozen. I felt like a man watching his house burn down from the front lawn, flames licking through windows, smoke pouring out, and everyone walking by blaming me for the fire. But that wasn't the moment I discovered the affair. No, that happened 3 weeks ago, and I remember it like it just happened. It started with a charger. Emily always kept her phone plugged in on the nightstand beside our bed, never let it drop below 80%. But that morning, I saw her scrambling to grab her purse and accidentally pull out a second phone. Not her iPhone. A cheap Android. One I'd never seen before. She paused, barely a second, before stuffing it back inside and forcing a smile. "Old work phone," she said. Forgot I still had it. I didn't question it. But I didn't forget either. That night, when she was in the shower, I found it again. Tucked under the stack of towels in the linen closet, wrapped in an old scarf. It wasn't locked. What I saw made my stomach twist. Hundreds of messages. Videos. Voice notes. Most of them from Bob. "He doesn't touch you like I do. He's too soft. Always was. You were made for me, Em." And her replies. "Kyle's a loser. I hate when he kisses me goodnight. I imagine it's you. Can't wait until he sees your baby's face and realizes. I dropped the phone. My hands shook, but I didn't cry. I couldn't. There was no room for sadness, only rage. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I did what any man with a plan would do. I started documenting. I filmed the screen, copied the texts, saved every voice note, every filthy clip of them in our bed, on our couch, even in my goddamn truck. Then I dug deeper. I followed her one afternoon after she claimed she was visiting her sister. Instead, she met Bob at a diner outside town, sat in his lap like a teenager, kissed him like a wife. And then, they drove back to a motel. I didn't follow them in. I didn't need to. The next day, I called a lawyer. Quietly, carefully. Get everything, I told her. I don't want this woman walking away with a single photo frame. We started building the case. But I wanted more than legal justice. I wanted poetic revenge. So I got in touch with Sarah, Bob's wife. She was 7 months pregnant. Thought her marriage was rock solid. She had no idea the man rubbing her feet at night was sneaking around on her with my wife. When I sent her the video, silence. Then, 30 minutes later, she called. I want to help you destroy them, she said. So we teamed up. She gave me dates, access to Bob's calendar, everything I needed to build a timeline. I gave her all the footage I'd gathered. Together, we created a file so thick and damning, no court could ignore it. But here's the part that twisted the knife in deeper. My parents knew. Sarah found emails. My mother had been texting Bob, encouraging the relationship, calling me a disappointment, saying Emily deserved better. They were helping plan the engagement party, even offered to pay for the catering. That's when I broke. Not cried, not screamed. I broke. Something inside me snapped in a way I didn't know it could. That night, I watched one last video. Emily lying in bed, whispering into Bob's ear. He'll never leave me. He's too weak, too scared. He's got nothing without me. She was wrong. I wasn't scared. I was ready. So when she smiled at me in the kitchen and told me she was leaving, I just smiled back, because she had no clue what was coming. Emily had always been good at faking things, smiles, tears, even love. But nothing prepared her for the moment I sat her down across from me in the living room and told her, we need to talk. She raised an eyebrow, not even looking up from her phone. Can it wait? Bob's picking me up in 20. I didn't blink. It really can't. She finally looked up, and I saw it. The flicker of confusion, quickly hidden behind her usual arrogance. She tucked her phone into her pocket and folded her arms. This about the divorce? You're finally signing the papers. I smiled, slow and cold. Not quite. I stood, reached under the coffee table, and pulled out a manila envelope. She laughed. What? You wrote me a letter like some heartbroken loser. I dropped the envelope in her lap. Go ahead. Open it. She rolled her eyes, tore it open, and started flipping through the pages. Her face changed by the second. Text messages, screenshots, printed stills from the videos. And then, the last page. A copy of the video thumbnail. Her half-naked, straddling Bob, in my truck. Where the hell did you get this? Her voice was sharp now. No more jokes. No more games. Found your burner phone. Guess you're not as slick as you think. Her jaw tightened. You went through my stuff? I laughed bitterly. You're sleeping with my best friend, and you're mad I opened a drawer? She stood up fast, like she wanted to yell, but I wasn't finished. I sent everything to Sarah. The blood drained from her face. And to your boss. Hope the HR policy about public image still stands. She blinked. You wouldn't. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I already did. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time, she looked cornered. But I wasn't done. You told him I couldn't give you a baby. That I was weak. I could feel my own voice rising. You looked me in the eye every day, kissed me goodnight, while you were out with him. The man who held my kid at his christening. She didn't deny it. Just stared. You're disgusting, I said. And I stayed quiet because I wanted to see how far you'd go. And damn, you outdid yourself. She tried to switch tactics. Kyle, you've been distant for years. You don't even look at me like you used to. I needed more. I needed to feel wanted. I shook my head. You needed attention. And when you couldn't get it from me, you went to the one person who had the most to lose. That's when she changed. You think you're going to come out of this clean? She hissed. You're nothing, Kyle. You work on a damn farm. Bob makes real money. He makes me feel like a woman. And guess what? When I walk out that door, I'm taking half. I stepped back, pulled out my phone, and tapped play. Her voice filled the room from the speaker. He's too stupid to figure it out. I'll just keep milking him until the baby's born, then I'm gone. Bob says we can sue for alimony after the divorce if I play it right. She lunged forward, trying to snatch the phone from my hand, but I was quicker. Sent this to my lawyer, too, I said calmly. And to the judge. Good luck milking anyone now. Her breathing was shallow, face flushed red with rage. You're a vindictive little. Careful, I warned, stepping toward the door. This house, it's in my name. Bought it before we were married. Everything in it. Documented. You'll leave here with your clothes and nothing else. She didn't move, just stared at me, like a predator realizing it had walked into the wrong cage. And for the first time in years, I saw her clearly. Not as the woman I married, not even as the one who betrayed me, but as someone I never really knew at all. I opened the door. Bob's waiting, right? She stood frozen for a second, then grabbed her purse and walked out without a word. And I watched her go. But it wasn't over yet. It was just beginning. The door clicked shut behind her, and for the first time in weeks, the house was silent. Not awkward silent. Not tension silent. It was the silence of something finally breaking free. I stood there for a full minute, just breathing. She was gone. Not emotionally. She'd left emotionally a long time ago. But now she was physically gone. And in that moment, it hit me. I wasn't devastated. I wasn't on the floor crying. I wasn't screaming at the ceiling. I was standing, tall and steady, finally free of the venom that had poisoned my home for years. But the damage she left behind, that was still smoldering. I walked into the kitchen. Her coffee cup was still on the table, lipstick on the rim. A knife in the back would have hurt less than seeing that shade of red, knowing it wasn't worn for me. I threw the cup into the trash and grabbed my phone. There were new messages. One from Sarah. Sarah, just told Bob I'm filing. He begged. I laughed. I smiled. That was a win. One small, satisfying win in a war that had barely begun. Another text from my lawyer. Lawyer, paperwork filed. I'll call you in the morning. You were right. This is going to bury her. I locked the screen and dropped the phone on the counter. I should have felt victorious. But what I felt was something different. Something heavier. Grief. Not for her. God, no. Not for the woman she turned out to be. But for the man I used to be before she broke me. For the love I thought was real. For the 20 years I'll never get back. I walked down the hallway to our bedroom, my bedroom now, and looked around. Everything still smelled like her. Her perfume. Her lotion. Her lies. The bed was still unmade. The sheets crumpled from the last night we slept in it together. I tore them off, threw them in the garbage. Then I started emptying drawers. Makeup, jewelry, clothes. Every piece of her had to go. By the time I was done, there was a black trash bag by the door stuffed with the shell of someone I no longer knew. I should have stopped there, but I didn't. I opened the closet and reached up onto the top shelf, pulling down the old shoebox I hadn't touched in years. Inside was everything. Our wedding photo, the anniversary cards, the ultrasound pictures of the baby we never had. I stared at that photo of us on our wedding day. God, I looked like a damn fool. So happy. So sure. I tore it in half. Then again. And again. Until it was confetti in my hands. I dumped the rest of the box into the fireplace. Lit a match. Watched it all burn. As the flames danced, I made a vow to myself. Not to sink. Not to spiral. Not to let her betrayal define who I was. She'd taken enough already. She didn't get to keep my spirit. She didn't get to break the man she thought was too soft to fight back. She thought I'd crumble. That I'd beg. That I'd cry and plead like some broken puppet. But instead, I was getting stronger. Every ember of that fire was another piece of her I didn't have to carry anymore. I sat back on the couch, letting the heat from the fireplace wash over me, and I started to plan. Because if Emily thought she'd seen the worst of me, she was dead wrong. She started a war, and I was just getting warmed up. There's something that changes inside a man when he's been betrayed that deeply. It's like a switch flips, and what's left isn't rage. It's clarity. That next morning, I woke up before sunrise. Not because I couldn't sleep, but because I didn't want to waste a single second. Emily thought the worst thing I could do was move on. She had no idea the worst thing I could do was pay attention. I started with the finances. She had no clue that years ago, back when I still trusted her, I added a clause to the prenup. One that triggered full financial review if infidelity was proven. Thanks to her little self-filmed home videos, I had that proof. Crystal clear. The clause kicked in immediately. Bank accounts? Frozen. Joint credit cards? Cancelled. Her car? Leased under my name. I called the dealership and told them to tow it from Bob's driveway. She texted me later that morning. Emily, where the hell is my car? I replied with 2 words, read the contract. Then I blocked her. Next came the nuclear option. I posted a short, polite update on Facebook. To friends and family, after discovering ongoing infidelity between my wife and my lifelong best friend, I filed for divorce. Thank you for respecting my privacy during this time. Attached was a screenshot of Bob and Emily, faces clear, timestamp included. Just enough to burn their reputations without a single angry word from me. It exploded. The phone didn't stop ringing. My inbox flooded. Half the town was in shock. The other half, not so surprised. Turns out, Bob had a history. Emily wasn't his first affair, just the one dumb enough to get recorded. Sarah, meanwhile, was on fire. She filed her own lawsuit, took Bob for every dollar she could legally touch, and moved back to her parents' place 2 states over. But not before mailing me a bottle of whiskey with a note that read, "To Kyle, the only man in this mess who acted like one." I didn't drink it. Not yet. I was saving it for the day this was all officially behind me. Then, just when I thought I'd seen every angle, I got the letter, mailed directly to my house. No return address. Inside was a printed email chain between Emily and my own mother, dated just 2 weeks before the truth came out. "Don't worry," my mother had written. "Kyle always folds under pressure. He won't fight you. Just be patient. You'll have everything soon." That one that hurt. My own mother, helping plan Emily's exit strategy, talking about me like I was some harmless idiot standing in the way of her daughter-in-law's fairy tale. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just made a list of names. People who were done. Family, friends, mutuals, anyone who knew and stayed silent. They were out of my life for good. Emily had scorched the earth, but I wasn't going to sit in the ashes. I was going to rebuild. But not before I made damn sure she felt everything she tried to put me through. You see, betrayal teaches you a lot. About people, about trust, about pain, but most of all about power. And when someone shows you who they really are, you believe them, and you bury them with it. 2 weeks had passed since I'd kicked her out, and not a single day went by without someone asking, "How are you holding up?" I gave the same answer every time. Better than I've ever been. And I wasn't lying. The weirdest part about betrayal is what it leaves behind when the shock fades. Clarity. Focus. This raw, primal hunger to become untouchable. So that's what I worked on. No more dragging my feet around the farm like a ghost. I woke up at 5, ran 5 miles before sunrise, hit the weights in the barn like I was training for war. I started eating clean, ditched the beer, and finally canceled that damn streaming service we used to waste hours on. I turned the guest room into an office and filled it with plans, real estate portfolios, investment blueprints, business books I used to buy and never open. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to thrive. Revenge had its place, and I took mine. But this was about resurrection. About proving to myself that the best version of me wasn't lost in those 20 wasted years. He'd just been buried, under compromise, comfort, and lies. People started noticing. Neighbors dropped by just to say they were proud. My buddy Darren brought over a bottle of bourbon and said, "You're glowing, bro. Like, divorce god energy. Whatever you're doing, don't stop." Even Sarah reached out. "Sarah, just wanted to say I saw your last post. You look like you finally exhaled." I replied with a simple truth. "Feels like I can finally breathe." But Emily couldn't stand it. I knew because she started poking around again. First, through mutual friends. Little questions disguised as small talk. "How's Kyle really doing? Is he seeing anyone? Did he ever mention me?" Then came the texts. Blocked numbers. Voicemails. One night, I listened to one just out of curiosity. Her voice, sweet and desperate. "I made a mistake, Kyle. Bob isn't who I thought he was. Please, can we talk?" I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the phone. She thought I was her backup plan. She thought I'd wait in the shadows like a loyal little mutt until her fantasy crumbled. Wrong. She didn't know I was already halfway into something new. Her name was Leah. She was a veterinarian who helped with my dog's surgery a few months back. Smart. Kind. Strong. Not the flashy type. Real. Raw. Honest. We started slow. Coffee. Conversation. She never pried, never pushed. But she listened. And when she looked at me, I didn't feel broken. I felt seen. One night, We sat on my back porch watching the stars. She asked, "You think you'll ever trust again?" I thought for a moment, then said, "Only the ones who earn it." She smiled. "That's fair." We didn't kiss that night. Didn't need to. It wasn't about replacing Emily. It was about remembering who I was before I gave everything to someone who gave me nothing back. And damn, it felt good. I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for peace. And for the first time in years, I could feel it rising in my chest like sunrise over the fields. Sure, I still had court dates ahead. Still had paperwork, lawyers, and mess to clean up. But now I had something Emily could never touch again. My freedom. Not just legal freedom. Emotional freedom. Freedom from manipulation. From guilt. From waking up every day wondering if I was enough. Now I knew. I always was. She just didn't deserve me. Some people settle for closure. I wanted consequences. See, Emily always played the long game. She didn't just cheat. She invested in betrayal. She made it efficient, rehearsed. She didn't want to break my heart. She wanted to replace me, erase me. But she never planned for the version of me who wouldn't just walk away. She never imagined I'd fight fire with precision. The court hearing was set for 9 a.m. Thursday. She walked in late, wearing white. Yeah, white. As if she were the grieving widow of a man she hadn't already buried with every lie she ever told. Her lawyer, some arrogant pretty boy in an overpriced suit, whispered something in her ear. She smiled. Not at me, through me. Like I was invisible. Like she still believed she'd win. Then my lawyer handed the judge a USB drive. "Your Honor," she said calmly, "what you're about to see is directly relevant to the division of assets, as well as the plaintiff's request for spousal support." Emily's smile wavered. The courtroom was quiet. Too quiet. The bailiff plugged the drive into a monitor, and then, there she was. Emily, clear as day, in our bedroom, with Bob, laughing, mocking, saying everything. "Kyle's so stupid. I could burn the house down and he'd thank me for the warmth. Just be patient, Bob. When the baby's born, I'll play the mental health card, and Kyle will hand over the farm himself." Every jaw in that courtroom dropped, except mine. Emily didn't blink. She didn't cry. She just froze. The judge stared at her, silent for a long beat. Then he looked at her lawyer. "Any comments, counselor?" The guy cleared his throat. We were not aware of this footage, Your Honor." "Clearly," the judge said, unimpressed. By the end of that hearing, Emily walked out with nothing. No spousal support. No share of the farm. No claim to my accounts. The clause in the prenup, plus the video evidence, crushed her like a fly under a hammer. She stood outside the courthouse afterward, sunglasses on, trying to act unbothered. But I saw her hands shaking. She approached me in the parking lot, probably hoping I'd show her the smallest sliver of softness. "You didn't have to humiliate me," she snapped. "That was low." I shrugged. "You were the one who filmed it." She glared. "I made one mistake." "No," I interrupted, stepping closer. "You made a lifetime of them. And now, you get to live with the consequences." I turned to walk away, but then I paused. "You should know," I said over my shoulder. "Bob's ex is suing you for emotional damages. Seems she had a miscarriage right after watching your video." Emily gasped, but I didn't look back. I got in my truck, started the engine, and pulled away from everything I used to know. That night, back at the farm, I opened that bottle of whiskey Sarah gave me, sat on the porch, the sky wide open above me, and I toasted. To peace. To truth. To survival. Then I picked up my phone and texted Leah. "Kyle, court's done. Want to come watch the sunset?" Leah, be there in 20. And when she showed up, barefoot and glowing, carrying 2 mugs of hot coffee, I realized something. I didn't just win. I healed. And no matter how deep the cut, how dirty the betrayal, or how public the shame, I came out cleaner than ever. There's a certain kind of silence that only comes after the storm. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels earned. That's what I heard that night, sitting on the porch, Leah curled up beside me, the stars quietly blinking overhead like nothing in the universe had ever gone wrong. It had been 6 months since I kicked Emily out. 3 months since the court hearing. 1 month since the divorce papers were officially stamped and sealed. And somehow, I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. I'd gone through every stage. Shock, rage, grief, vengeance. I'd watched the woman I loved morph into a stranger. I'd seen the best friend I trusted fall lower than I thought possible. I'd buried an entire chapter of my life in flames. And somehow, I walked out on the other side stronger. And now? Now I knew exactly who I was. I was a man who rebuilt himself from ashes. I was a man who stopped apologizing for being too loyal, too patient, too blind. And I was finally free. People still ask me how I didn't lose my mind, how I didn't snap, how I kept calm when everything around me was burning. And the answer is simple. I made a choice. I chose not to let her define me. Because if you let betrayal change you into something dark, they win. Emily wanted me weak. She wanted me bitter. She wanted me so emotionally gutted that I'd beg her to come back. Instead, I found my backbone. And if there's one thing I'd tell any man who finds himself in the same hell I walked through, it's this. Let the betrayal sharpen you, not shatter you. When someone lies to you like that, when they look you in the eye every day and smile while stabbing you in the back, it says nothing about you. It says everything about them. And yeah, it'll hurt like hell. You'll question your worth. You'll play every moment back in your head, trying to figure out where you went wrong. But here's the truth. You didn't go wrong. They did. They chose deception. They chose destruction. You just believed in love. And there's no shame in that. But once you see the truth, don't ignore it. Face it. Confront it. And then walk away like the fire didn't touch you. Because that's what scares them most. Not your rage, not your sadness, but your ability to rise. The Emily I knew is gone. The version of myself who needed her? Gone too. Now I wake up with purpose. I work harder, live cleaner, and love smarter. Leah and I aren't rushing anything. She's not a rebound. She's not a replacement. She's just real. And every time she smiles at me like I'm not broken, I believe it a little more. Sometimes I still hear from mutuals. Emily's living in a cheap apartment now. Bob left her 3 weeks after the court case. Apparently, he couldn't handle the drama. Classic. She's tried dating again, but word travels fast in small towns. No one trusts a woman who brags about tricking her husband and stealing someone else's man. Funny how karma works. But me? I sleep well. I eat better. I live free. And when I look in the mirror, I don't see a fool. I see a man who walked through betrayal and came out invincible. So, to anyone who's ever been where I was, lost, betrayed, heart torn open, remember this. They might have fooled you. They might have broken your trust. But they didn't break you. Not unless you let them. And you're stronger than you think. You just haven't been pushed far enough yet to see it.